Good evening and welcome to Enemy Within. It's Tuesday the 22nd of September 2015 and we're going out tonight on peoplesinternetradio.com. Whoa, it's been a bit of a panic getting ready tonight. All of a sudden, because I'm in my friend's back cave tonight, he's kindly lent that to us. Suddenly things decided they didn't want to work properly, and a big thanks to Vin who came in last minute and sorted all that out for us, and thankfully we seem to be on air now, and Tom's back with us tonight. Hi Tom, how you doing, mate?
Hello Andy, I'm doing good, how are you?
Yeah, fantastic weekend, carrying the weekend on a bit, visiting a friend. He's doing a couple of jobs for me, and just having a fabulous time at the minute. And seems like we're on a bit of a roll with these guests because, well, we've had Del on a few times before, and he certainly seems very popular with the listeners and gives out some excellent information. But tonight, I believe we're going to be joined by Rob Freeman at a later point in time, but I don't think Rob's quite ready just yet. But I believe Del is. Are you there, Del?
Hey Andy, can you hear me? Am I coming through nice and clear?
You're coming through crystal clear, but there was a moment of silence there, and I think my heart missed about 20 beats.
You need to switch the microphone up, Andy. Tony's asking in chat.
My microphone's a bit low. Okay, that looks better, yeah. Thanks for that, Tony. And yeah, that looks a lot better, so hopefully. Yeah, Del, what are you coming on to talk to us about tonight?
Yeah, it's well, I'm going to be talking about a few elements. Obviously, the black magic has officially started on the autumn solstice, which is today. The reason why I chose today, Andy knows I'm big with dates and numerology. I like my numerology, and the magic has started as Francis has wandered across the Atlantic Ocean and landed in Ammach in Amexem, and the big ritual is starting. And obviously he flies back on the Blood Moon Tetrad. So there's something going down definitely. And the issue is it's not just one case. I don't do dates, and I'm not going to say, this doesn't work the way everybody assumes. Oh well, if he says this, that's going to, no. They work on a checkerboard and they do multiple rituals to do multiple realities, all negative ones of course, but we know the truth, and so therefore the vibrations that come through us are changing into, those vibrations comes through us are changing these onto a different scale, and we're not being programmed and trauma based programming by these priests. So I'm just sending out some positive thoughts, having a good old laugh, and knowing they can't do anything. It's all a fraud and an illusion, but we may as well expose the illusion while they're at it anyway. And so the reason why I'm mainly on is because of the illusion that's going to be going down. And I wanted to talk about the cult and some of the scenarios potentially that may or may not come about, but you'll definitely see something numerologically. And I've been looking at possible some events that may or may not happen. The issue is when they work on a checkerboard, they work in terms of, they'll have like multiple events that they'll set off, and depending on how the checkerboard's working at the time, basically the souls that are being programmed, depending on how the trauma-based program is working with these reptilians that they're serving, will depend on which reality they end up pushing out at the end of the visit when Francis comes back from Ammach. So they've got like, there could be a terrorist event, there could be something to do in the skies because they're not chemtrailing as hard at the moment, which I've noticed they've stopped that. There could be some money manipulation, there could be some sort of blood sacrifice. There's so many scenarios that they've got themselves into that could happen. It could be a completely, the SDR, special drawing rights. It could be that they changed the Swift system on the 6.6 frequency to the new one on the brick system on 5.5, which is why they've got all the world's leaders at the same place at the same time, when he goes to meet the peoples at the UN conference. I'll just stop there because I know you wanted to speak and I know you wanted to say something. Go ahead, Andy.
Yeah, it was just that I'm just adding Rob in. He's just messaged us to say that he's available, so hopefully that should work, and Rob should be with us any second.
Hello, Rob.
Hi, Rob. Got no sound from Rob there. Have you got your mic muted, Rob?
Hello, can you hear me?
That's better.
Yeah.
I'm through at last, yo.
Yeah.
Welcome to Journey Within, Rob. We've been waiting for this a long time, and I know the listeners have.
Oh, wow, no pressure then.
Thanks
for inviting me on.
It's just great to get you back on the radio, mate.
I know, I feel a bit nervous. I've not done it for about, I don't know how long now, about 8 months, I think, 6 months.
Oh, wow. Yeah, it seems longer than that. It seems like forever.
Very dumb for me. You know, sod's law, I've just had a burst pipe last night and my kitchen's flooded. I've been mopping that all day. So I may get just a couple of distractions early on, and I'll just tell you I'm on mute and I'll have to go away for a couple of minutes, but it shouldn't be that much.
No problem, mate.
Okay, cheers.
You wanted to comment, Andy, on what Delroy was saying about chemtrails and stuff.
It wasn't about the chemtrails specifically. It was actually just something Mahatma Coat just posted in the chat room, and he said it's an equinox, not a solstice, mate.
Is that to me?
Yeah.
Yeah, you've got the September. It's the autumn. It's the autumn one that's come up. People are going to get precipitous. You've got people call them equinox, people call. I'm not going to get into the argument. The issue is you get certain parts of the year every 6 months. You've got one in June, you get one in spring, you get one in December. Fundamentally on this planet, how it works. I'm not going to get into any technicality sources. I'm not. The point is, he's going down, or he's going over across the water while this is happening. Whether it's an equinox, solstice, I'm not going to get statistical. The point is, he could have gone any other point, but he's going now, and that's because certain energies come on the planet at this particular point, which is why it's going then. So my point is, it's more about I'm going to get into literal speaking. I'm not talking about the energy of him going there at that particular point. He goes on the equinox or solstice. He comes back when the blood moon tetrads on the 20th. I think it's 27th or 28th. The point is, things are happening in this solar system and things are happening on this planet while he's in the States. That's my point I'm going to be making about. So I'm not going to get too statistical on equinox. So the point is, he's going on while this is happening. And, he could have gone at any other time, but he's not doing that. He's going now because the grim reaping or the harvesting of the souls, like the feast of the tabernacles. And so he's going with that planet in terms of the energies and what's happening. I want to get into more about the ritualistic side of it and the cult and talk a little bit about that as to why he's there doing the magic and what's going on at this particular point. And there's not one scenario here, like I said, there's many scenarios that they'll have going on at the same time, programming everybody through the mainstream media, and depending on how everybody takes to it in terms of the programming and how the souls then react to that, and that energy gets fed back into the ley lines, back into the grids, and that programs this whole reality. And that's what I want to talk about. It's the magic and the programming side of it that's the most important thing. And you'll see all that ritualistically on the television and everything else that's going on. So I'm not going to get too statistical on whether it's solstice or equinox. The point is, he's going on numerologically and when the vibrations are changing on this planet because of the energies here at this time. So I want to get in on that specifically.
So just to help the listeners, when you talk about they are doing this, they are setting this up, you're talking about the Vatican priests in conjunction with governments around the world.
Correct, and this is factual information. I'm going to be talking about factual information stroke what they're actually doing now. And you are right, Tom. It is because if anybody's bothered to and don't take my word for it. Please do your own due diligence. Please do your own due diligence. It's not even hard. You can even do a basic Google search and find the list for Francis's so-called schedule that he's doing, and certain things are going to be happening. He's having certain black masses at certain points. He's going to the old capital dominion of the older Mexican Empire, which is Philadelphia. He's going to the Independence Peace Zone. People don't know what these places are and what they mean in terms of historically, in terms of what's gone on in the past, and that's what we're going to be touching a little bit on tonight as well. So his reason why he's doing this is because he's trying to program everybody, and that's my point that I want to get around everybody, that there's a programming and there's a set agendas going on, and depending on how the souls feed off that and feed that back into the system and back into the grids, which programs your reality for density, will depend on what outcome they'll push us in towards when he leaves, when he comes back on the blood moon tetrad.
Just something occurred to me while you were saying about all the tricks they're going to be playing and the illusions. the thing that sprung straight into my mind, I've been away from home at a conference all weekend, but the thing that you cannot avoid is this Cameron Pig incident. Is that part of this, do you think?
Yeah, no, you're right. That's my point. This is what I'm saying to you, because again, a perfect example, you just said that pig incident. Now that's a negative program that the priests have put in.
Uh-huh.
You know what I mean? If you notice, in terms of trauma-based programming, you've always got death, murder, or some kind of negative spin on something. If you notice, Andy, you always keep seeing it consistently, that there's some sort of negative thing going on. Very trauma-based, fear-based program. If you notice that, Andy, you always seem to see that one way or another, Tom, in the purpose in general. There's always a death going on, or some murders going on, or some kind of negativity that puts you in some kind of fear, trauma-based state. Would you agree with that, Andy?
Yeah, absolutely. And there's a couple of remarkable things about that. I mean, firstly, I've seen a lot of people who seem to be quite on the ball saying, yeah, okay, we've seen the Cameron thing, it's quite funny. We know how disgusting these people are, so it's possibly believable. But when they're telling you, look over here, you need to be looking in the complete opposite direction. And the other thing is that this incident, it seems very similar to a TV show that was put out by Charlie Brooker on Channel 4 called Black Mirror. And first episode was when the Prime Minister of England, who was played by Roy Kinnear's son, who looked remarkably like Scammeron, had to have sex with a pig live on television. Now,
thank you.
Some sort of accident.
Charlie Brooker actually tweeted about that. He said he didn't realise it was a documentary. He said if he did know about the pig incident, he would have shouted it into traffic.
Of course.
That's a good point, Andy. And see, and if it's not, you've just touched on one of them. The other thing to do is sex magic rituals. So that's another thing I didn't even get into. I didn't even touch that, and you've just reminded me about that. It's an aspect I didn't even talk about. But that's another aspect that goes on during all of this as well, is the ritual sacrifice, whether it's sexual or whether it's just absolute murderous blood sacrifices. So yeah, you're absolutely right. And so they program this into these tele-live vision programs, and so they're burning sketches into your mind so that you go out and then program the grids, because remember, everything's energy in this third density. So when you think, this is why I don't want to give too much negative spin, and I just want to put the facts out there, not being negative, because I don't want to be negative, because that's not what we're talking about. What we want to do is we want to talk the truth, yes, about the murderous cult, fair enough, but we don't want to put it in a negative spin where you want to feed it. I don't want to feed it in that way. What I want people to do to realize it's an illusion that they're trying to program you so that you feel that way and be that way, and you bring that into your reality, and hence you bring that into third density. That's why they've always got you on this programming stuff all the time in terms of trauma-based programming in third density. What I want to do is expose the fraud, and then to say to people, well, you know it's a fraud, you don't have to give no energy to it, and just put some positive thoughts back into the grids, into the layer lines, and don't get fooled by any of it. Because I will say this to you, Andy, and one thing about the beast, when he changes his Swift system to his new brick system, which is backed by gold and silver, and there's other, I'm going to talk a bit more about that later on in depth as well if we get time. Keep in mind that Caesar needs his system in order to feed off us. He needs us, we don't need him. So keep in mind that that's what you've got to keep in mind and keep strong on that. That you don't have to be programmed in a negative way, in a trauma-based way, and get caught up in it all. Whatever they do, let them get on with doing it, and all I say is I let it go right over my head, and I just laugh. I just laugh at it, but people who don't know something, or don't know the truth, or don't know what's really going on with this side of it, need to have studied that, or need to learn about that, and get it open so they can know that there's been a magical game playing, and at least now they know what's going on, and that allows them to then take themselves out of that negative vibration and focus on something else.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it actually ties into what you're saying. This incident is a secret society ritual, but secret society rituals are black magic rituals for the same reasons that you're talking about.
Yeah, I agree, Tom. I completely agree, and I want to talk some background into it without being negative. Just putting some facts into it. How they see what it is. I went to a conference on Saturday, and I met Ian Crane, and I talked about this briefly. You've got the beast that comes in with its hand. It feeds you with one hand and stabs you in the back with the other, but you don't know if you're being stabbed. You know there's something wrong, you just don't know what's wrong or why it's wrong and who's benefiting from it. What I want to do today is showing why it's wrong, who's benefiting from it's wrong, and therefore allowing you to then, when the beast comes with his hand, to watch his other hand with his dagger in and not take the food off him or get hit by the dagger. Yield the floor there.
Well, it's interesting, people who the alternative media would say are asleep still. Even those people still feel that something is wrong, but they can't quite compute what is wrong.
And that's what we want to get into tonight. We want to get in, and we're going to talk about the cults. We're going to talk about Baal and Saturnalia and what they're actually, who they really are, and what they're doing. So on one hand, they talk about Jesus, who was Caesar Borgia, who was the illegitimate son of Pope Alexander, complete fraud, a complete sham. What they did, what people don't realise is the same so-called man who they talk about, who they so-called venerate so high that they don't, period, is Yeshua. And I know we've talked about this briefly before, and I'm not going to go into too heavy because we've got other things we're supposed to be dealing with tonight. But Yeshua was a 4th and 5th dimensional avatar, and to be fair, Yeshua, he brought the real law, and he brought the truth. And Andy, you know this as well as I do, and Tom will know this. Yeshua only got angry one time. And why did he get angry?
Money changes.
Thank you. Usury. Forbidden. Because it causes involuntary servitude, which is slavery. We're not supposed to have no money. My whole point, one of the points I'm going to bring today specifically, is that we don't need money, and it's a false construct, period. And they're using a death fear projection and using money to control the souls here, which is why the Pope has attacked the Holy See. Because we know that money, or moon eye, the moon controls the currency, which is Ishtar, which is this goddess, and this is what they have in terms of the symbolism in terms of Libra, which is another illusion on the Gregorian calendar that they made out 2,000 years ago. They changed the whole, they changed the charts to make up Libra. Libra don't actually exist. I'm not getting heavy on that, but they actually made that up. And they read that because where Libra was on the old system used to have Scorpio, and that energy is very controlative and manipulative. And the reason why they put Libra in there is because they want to manipulate that energy, and that energy is what they're using to control the souls on this planet today. And they're still using that with these reptilians that they're serving. And I'm not really getting too negative, but that's what they're doing. So I don't want to go too hard just too yet, but I want to talk about specifically about the sacrifice official end of it, and the Baal priests themselves. So they're not here with missionaries to help people. You know, they've got this, we come to help people, we come to do this, we come to do that. But actually, they're the ones who are causing all the trouble in the first place. And if we got rid of them, we wouldn't, practically most of the world's problems would be gone anyway. Because humanity could be just, would be better off without them, period. So what I want to expose today is that side of it. Not for negative purposes, for factual purposes of who they are, and then for people to do their own due diligence, to do their own research, and I can pass more links on to Andy at some point when he needs to, and he can send those out when he's ready, and let people do their own due diligence. But to know who they really are, so that you don't get programmed by them, and you don't give them that energy. Because they need you right now, to be watching the television, to get caught up in the whole hoo-ha thing that they're going to be doing over the next 3-4 days, and then to give all the energy to them, which they're going to transfer back into the grids, back into the soul, and program you with it anyway, and throw you off from the truth about what's really going on in this planet and in this solar system. Yield the floor there and stop.
Mm-hmm. Del, we've got a bit of an unusual question here from the chat room, and it comes from Fritz, and it's for you. And he said, let me just scroll back a second. Did he ask IRC about being in the MI5 house in Cambridge with Knights Templar? Do you know anything about that?
It. No, but they are. I'm liking the question. I don't know about that specific, but I can tell you now, the Templar, or the Templar, if you look at the Maltese cross that the Pope has, that Jesuit Maltese cross, that represents goes back to the Templars of Octagon. I'm going to talk about that in a bit. That's what I'm going to get to. I'm glad he said that, because I am going to touch I'm going to be touching the Octagon, I'm going to be touching the Baal Priest, and of course Saturnalia tonight. And I'm glad he said that, because that is an important part of it, because they control things from the top end. On the US $1 bill, you see the pyramid with the capstone off it. Mm-hmm. The capstone, they're trying to put that on right now with these events that they're doing that's going on. That's why it's over in Ammach, because they want to put the capstone on into the so-called New World Order, Ordus Novus Seclorum. You're very familiar with it, because they're trying to get everybody under one world government. And this is why all your world's leaders are going to be in Ammach at this particular point, because they're going to be setting up this new thing to try and put this all on the people and then force this illusional fake construct on everybody, saying that it's going to be this new great thing. And they might not come out and say, oh, we've got a new world order tomorrow. No, it's not going to be like that. They're going to be giving their marching orders behind closed doors, and then you will see over the next period of years, between now and 2017 and onwards, you will see the program initiated. So if everyone says, oh, well, they didn't talk about New World Order, no, it doesn't work like that. This is what I keep telling them. Third density is completely different. It's matter of slow down to a very slow point. And for things to take place in third density, it takes time for it to go. It takes time for it to form into formation, into reality. So they know this, so they have to plan stuff 60, 70, 80, 90 years, 100 years, 200 years ahead of time. So when I'm saying this, I'm saying the Pope will give his marching orders to his so-called world blood oath leaders that took blood oaths to serve the Pope. He'll give all the marching orders, and then you will begin to see implementations of what we're going to be talking about tonight. You'll begin to see them mentioning special drawing rights. You'll begin to see them more ritual sacrifices, which is what you were talking about earlier on, Andy, with these shows that they're putting out all the time. And like the guy was saying who answered that question, talking about Knights of Murder, you'll begin to see more murder. You'll begin to see more rumours of wars. You'll begin to see more stock market crashes and stock market.
Oh, you've suddenly gone quiet there, Del. I don't know if you've dropped off, but for it to just come back and said, I presume that's in reference to the Maltese cross, that it's the prime number cross. Are you there still, Del?
This seems to happen every time Del's on.
Yeah, it looks like somebody's dropped off the call. Was that Del?
Rob, do you want to comment on the stuff that Del's been talking about?
Yeah, I'm having a few problems here. My Skype's drifting in and out. I've lost the chat room altogether, so I can't see anything. And I missed some of what Del was saying there, so just forgive me if I'm repeating stuff. Yeah, it seems all a bit, for people that aren't really into the metaphysical stuff yet, a lot of people are just trying to survive, basically, aren't we, against this legal system. Mm-hmm. And as you know, well, as a lot of people know, I've kind of encountered that legal system for, probably one of the first in this country to start doing it on a regular basis. So I learned a lot about the whole legal system and the courts, the judiciary and all that stuff. I learned quite a lot, in fact, an awful lot really early on. And I started implementing things, and I've had some, what you could be called really good results. But always from day one, I always, people used to say to me, how come you do this? How come it works? How come you send a notice off and they leave you alone? And it's about the wording, it's about knowing the words, and it's about your energy and your intent. But the stuff Del's talking about, this is the sort of stuff that I very first started looking at, way back in the late 80s, 90s. This is not to the depth Del's doing it, but that's the stuff I was looking at. And the reason I've had what people perceive as good results is that at the back of it, I know what's at the back of all this, and this is the stuff that Del's talking about is at the back of it all. And so, knowing that in the back of my mind, when I learnt the law and commerce stuff, what's fueling my intent and actions is knowing this kind of stuff to a certain level anyway. And so really when you get your council tax bill or, a speeding fine or whatever it is, this is our perceived reality, and we think, I've had a parking ticket or I've had this, and what we're trying to do is we're trying to combat it or fight it using the same kind of thinking, the same methodology really, and up to a certain extent you can do it, but all you're ever really doing is surviving. It's, a stalemate, as you fellas know, a stalemate in courts, it's a victory for us. If they take no action, which they've done, I've been threatened with absolutely everything imaginable, but no one's ever done it. And so it's classed as a victory because, they just go away. But I think everything's changing now. People are changing. People that are awakened have now becoming more spiritually awakened, and I think this is the key to it all. What we've got to stop doing is reacting to I call it the legal system. It's not just the legal system. So basically, it's oppression and slavery, whether it's coming from government, church, education, teachers, whatever it is. The whole system's set up for us to be slaves. And so my interest in what Del's been talking about is, and it always was really, is our perception of things. It's how we're perceiving things. I don't know if it was Einstein or somebody really famous said, you can't sort out a problem with the same level of thinking that created it. And that's true now. We're starting to rise above this now. And we see more and more shows that are talking about law and commerce and all this sort of stuff, but also factoring in this metaphysical stuff. So that's the thing I'm interested in. I didn't really answer your question there, did I? I'm off on a tangent.
I think you went a little bit way towards it. We've also got Mahatma Coat has asked, does the guest have any tangible proof that these entities are reptilians?
That's for you, Del, if you're there.
Alright, I'm back.
Oh, excellent.
Now, yeah, I'm back now. I don't know where I've lost my chain of thought. You're gonna get the issue you're gonna have with anything like this that's esoteric is you cannot. You have tangible proof. The only downside is, and the only problem you're gonna have with this is, can you get to Afghanistan and can you go to certain countries where these temples exist? Now, I've got pictures of these temples where these reptilian creatures once were. Now, the problem we have at the moment is these creatures who they're serving. When I'm talking about reptilians, I'm gonna have to say that there's some that are physical, some that are non-physical. So I'm talking about 4th, 5th dimensional ones who are entities. And then you've got some that are Homo sapiensis beings that are physically on the earth in the Vatican. Now, Karen Hughes has spoken very heavily on this. The downside you're going to get is they're very well hidden, and the priesthood are very good at making sure they're very well hidden. And so the other side of it, yeah, you can prove it, but the downside is that it's very well hidden, and I'm going to have to speak to whoever's put that question personally and give some personal insight more into that. Because the problem you've got is I've had personal experiences of seeing certain entities because I vibrate at a certain level. But in terms of physical ones, there is proof of it. But all the bloodlines, that they belong to, these reptilian bloodlines, most of the bloodlines are kept pure, and also you can't readily get hold of this information readily like that, because they make sure that it's not readily available for the people, because then you would question your whole reality of existence. Now, there is some factual proof I can show you that you can do some due diligence on, that you can do. Just look at the life forms on this planet. You've got amphibians here, you've got mammals here, you've got reptilian creatures here, and you've got insectoids here. That's proof that reptilians exist. You've seen crocodiles, you know the reptilians, you've seen other reptilian creatures that are actually on this planet. That are cold-blooded, like sharks or reptilians. They're reptilian creatures, so that's proof. That's proof. No, people have seen sharks before, you've seen crocodiles, they're reptilian creatures. So that's proof that they're here. The issue is, what wants to know about, he wants to know about these higher beings, that are 4th and 5th dimensional, but you can't see them on third density because they exist on another dimension. But the only ones you can see down here in terms of physical beings are the ones in the normal animal kingdom, in terms of like your reptilian creatures like your crocodiles and stuff like that, and your sharks and creatures like that. The ones that are hidden in terms of physical, in terms of in terms of beings, in terms of like man and a woman, so to speak, are all in the Vatican, and obviously you don't get to go in there because it's all under the Pope's guard, so you can't really go in there. But they're real, but the people they make sure that they hide themselves well. So the other thing I can give factually is the fact that you can see reptilian creatures on this planet, in terms of they're actually here, in terms of animals, in terms of crocodiles and other reptiles that lay eggs, and so that's factual proof that reptilians exist. The ones he wants to see, and I agree with him, are very well hidden in the Vatican, and you can't get in there. So I hope that answers some of his questions in terms of factual evidence and being able to go somewhere to helping him. But yeah, they tried to keep that hidden from us. But I hope that may have answered something for him at least.
Mm-hmm. Mahatma's just actually come back in the chat and said that Arthur C. Clarke started the whole reptilian myth in 1946, and then there's a couple of people, myth, ? And he says then again in 1953, yes, it's a myth with no evidence. I mean, reptilians from outer space, not earthly ones.
Again, he's on about reptilians from outer space. Listen, everything came in from the beginning. So we're not just third dimensional. This talk would go off where we need to go, because he was asking questions that are relevant to what he wants, but it's a long talk to go off it. Andy, we spoke about this, but it would deviate too much. No, everybody's part of the all, and we all come from the original essence creator being, and so we exist within this universe. So what I'm saying to you is, we've never been alone on this planet. We're not alone, and we've never been alone in the entire universe. If you're thinking that we're the only things that are here, you're having a complete illusion. No, we're not. We're not. Or we've never been completely on our own. The issue is the information that he wants to get is very well hidden, but it does exist. It's just difficult to prove because they make sure they hide it very well. But yeah, I know he's trying to differentiate, but we're not on his own. I never have thought we was on his own. It's just difficult because these people that have done some research into this, and spoke to Andy about these people. If you want to look into this, look into a woman called Ashiana Dean, and her books, the Voyages 1 and 2, and she talks about this, and she's done some good research on that. And a woman called Barbara Handclaw as well, she's done some good work on that. So, these people have done work on it, but it's very difficult to get direct evidence because it's been well hidden by the priesthood. I need to speak to him more privately about some stuff that I've got, but that's not for today. I don't want to deviate too much, but he's making some good points. But if he thinks we're alone in this entire universe, he'll find out soon enough that maybe even in his lifetime, that we're not.
We've got an interesting one in there from Fritz in the chat room, and he's just put, display your terms of business / contract. Mine states that they will be charged £500 per item, i.e., this is referring to parking tickets. Ticket plus plastic bag equals £1,000. My labour charge is £250 per hour or any part thereof, and my administration charge is £30. Enjoy.
Well, like that. Yeah, if the priesthood are going to come and offer you a contract, and I agree with Rob on this, if they're going to offer you anything you get from a pseudo so-called public servant is a service. When you contract with them, and I don't want to deviate too much, because I wanted to try and get into what we were meant to be here for, we're going off on another tangent again. Okay. When they offer you a contract, that first letter they give you is actually a contract itself. And when you send back the payment, they're charging you for actually sending you the letter. So the actual service is what they're charging you for. So I'll agree with you. And if your time and energy, your sweat equity, your energy from your soul, which is what he's talking about, you charge them for the time that it takes you to correspond back to them. So I agree with him completely. It's either no contract, no obligation, or if you're going to contract and then want to do business, then you charge them for your time. I agree with him completely. I yield the floor, but I agree with him, unless Rob wants to add something else on top.
Yeah, Rob, do you have a comment on that one?
Yeah, I like it. I don't know who it was in the chat room because I can't get it up. It seems to have disappeared and be blank. But yeah, that's the type of stuff I've been doing. And maybe, I don't know if it's alright with yourselves, Andy and Tom, if Darren himself could come back and talk about more that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Obviously that's right up my street, that sort of stuff, and I've got lots of information on that, and I know Dell's well versed as well. So maybe, I don't know if you fellas agree, maybe we could come back and specifically talk about that sort of stuff. But can I just, while I've got a chance, because I'm sort of in and out on Skype, I just want to make a point on the reptilian thing. I think it was it Mahatma who posted the question?
That's right, yeah.
Yeah, and to be honest, I'm not convinced about all this sort of stuff, whether it's reptilians, and I know they exist. Who it is, who's pulling the strings. I know that the Vatican, aided by the Jesuits, well, Jesuits are in control, are the highest corporation on planet Earth and are running the whole show. But no matter how grounded you are, no matter how tied up in fighting the legal system and, wanting proof, which is, that's fair by Mahatma, everybody wants proof. But when we sit down and think about it all, the whole system is so incredible. I mean, you can't help but admire the system. It's beautiful, its ugliness, if you see what I mean. It's a fantastic system. We know the manipulation of the language is just unbelievable. So the point I'm trying to make, it's not just the language, it's the whole system. So the point I'm trying to make is that something other than human intelligence has created, and is running the whole show. Now, whether it's reptilians or whatever people believe, at some point we're going to have to accept the fact that something either off-world or something not of human intelligence has created and is running the whole show. So whether whether reptilians play a part in it or what other entities there are, it's certainly not by human design. I think all of us can agree on that.
Mm-hmm. Dale was saying there, we're kind of deviating a little bit from what you wanted to come on and talk about tonight. So could you perhaps get us back on track a bit, Rob, please?
Oh, right, okay. Well, to be honest, Dale's going to talk about stuff that he's specifically been studying for a long time. But what I wanted to do tonight is exactly tie it into the stuff that grassroots levels, basically. The stuff that we're talking about. I know you said something about, did somebody say something about in the chat room about giving like a schedule of fees and stuff to charge the other side?
That's right, yeah, that was...
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so what I wanted to do is listen to what Dale's saying, add my bit, and try and tie it in, because that's the reason I've been fairly successful. Mm-hmm. Is you can't see this separate. Being oppressed by a corporation, basically, is part of the whole thing. The whole thing is kind of fractal. Somebody who's got a 20 quid parking ticket is being oppressed, but it's the system of oppression. It's exactly the same. It's like the microcosm and macrocosm. Right at the top level, the oppression that's those entities that I said, aided by the Vatican and the governments, churches, and all that sort of stuff, it's the same system throughout. It might be different in size, in magnitude, but the whole thing, right down to the littlest thing, the whole system's running the same. And the whole system, basically, is how we think. It's how our thoughts and how we perceive things. This is what I was trying to say earlier. How we perceive things, basically, is our downfall. The real battle is not against the corrupt governments. It is in the physical level, but this physical thing is just a play-out arena for metaphysical, which is where Dell's coming from. And so what I'm saying is, the whole fight is it's the battle for our minds. That's it. That's what they want to seize. And so if they want to capture our minds, they've got everything else. The body follows after. So my whole thing is I mean, who's thinking about thinking? Who's thinking about thought? When we have our thoughts, we then speak, and it kind of manifests into our reality. We speak. It's almost like being a co-creator in a way. But when we speak, that's what happens. We speak into reality. But has anybody took the time, and I know a lot of good researchers have, has anybody took the time to actually analyse their own thoughts? Are the thoughts that we're having, are they our thoughts? Or at some metaphysical level, are they being manipulated? And I suggest that they are being manipulated, and as Dell said, it's fear-based. So even our thoughts are programmed through fear. Now, so how does that help us trying to survive this commercial flipping construct?
Well, yeah.
Sorry.
I've kind of looked at that. Sorry to jump on you there, Rob.
No,
I've looked at that, and yeah, I can see how we are being controlled by it. I heard Richard D. Hall speaking at the weekend. He gave an excellent presentation at Gary Heseltine's conference at Homefirth, and he did say that if you control someone's thoughts, you control their actions, or control their beliefs, you control their actions. So if all this information's put out there, whether it may be true or false, that makes you believe a certain way, that controls your actions. And it's quite clear to me that we are being fed some major league rubbish to control our thoughts and actions.
Yeah, but you know, we're doing it to ourselves. They are doing it, and we know about the subliminals and the symbolism, and because everything is an energy vibration, and they know how our minds work. I think I did one of the first talks I ever did. I don't know how exactly true this is, but your conscious mind can process, I think it's 2 million bits of information a second. I don't know whether it's measured in, but we'll call it bits. So your conscious mind can process 2 million bits of information per second. But your subconscious or unconscious mind, apparently, I don't know how true this is, can process 4.5 billion billion with a B bits of information a second. So the ones that are in control, your subconscious or unconscious, whatever it's called, it has to do this. Otherwise, it has to just soak it up like a sponge, because every time you did a simple task, you'd have to relearn it all over again, like tying your shoes or making a cup of coffee or something. So what happens is it floods into your subconscious at 4.5 billion bits per second, and then it sorts it out later. That's how the subliminals work. We know about advertising. We know about all this sort of stuff. So based on that, what you've got to realise is that these people or entities that are running it know about this. They know about the workings of the brain, and so they flood us with it. And so it is having an effect on our subconscious, and it's non-stop. We're being bombarded. But just getting back to the thought thing, the way I've really evolved, sort of thing, is when I have thoughts now. It's a real easy thing to, when you start doing it, and it's really rewarding. I analyse the thoughts I've had. Not every time, obviously, if I'm busy doing stuff, but, if I'm thinking stuff, and you get a kind of a resonance, and you ask yourself, is it my thoughts? And the conclusion I've come to in looking at other researchers is, to have a thought and not be judgmental about yourself or anybody else is you're on the right road to knowing whether it's your thought or not. And because the thoughts that are being instilled in us through all the programming are based on fear, which is obviously ego mind, if you can be non-judgmental about your own thoughts about yourself, and about if you're thinking about somebody else or a different situation, if you can observe it and see it for what it is, things start to happen in a really nice way. Do I seem to be blaring on about not much tonight, don't I?
But it's certainly true about the subconscious mind reading more. Obviously, it's up for debate how many bits you read in the subconscious, in opposed to the conscious. But that's the way advertising works, through subliminal messaging. That's the way TV works, the planting of subliminal messages within programs. It's proven to work. It's proven that it happens every day in the stuff that you watch on television.
Yes, thank you. And good point, Tom. And that's what I was saying when I first came on. The thing why we want to talk about it tonight is I don't want to put a negative spin on it, because you don't have to be traumatized by the dead priesthood. Yeah, they are doing black magic right now, and they've got all these world leaders, and they've got all the tele-live vision, putting programming the frequencies in with your grand architects, your handlers, your programmers, then your world leaders, and then it comes down to your crooks and acts and all the little cronies, and then it comes down to the people. It's a big, well, as Rob said, it's a big well-oiled machine. It is a big well-oiled machine, but you don't have that. The Neo said at the end of the Matrix, you don't have to be a part of it, like Andy's not, like you're not, Tom. We know the truth, and we're pulling ourselves away from that. And just as you was exposed to the Matrix and the Grand Architect on the third film, he turned around and says 99% of people accepted the program, but there was a small percentage that didn't. And those of us that know the truth know that we don't have to be programmed, know we don't have to live in fear, and know no matter whatever they do, it doesn't have to affect us. And we are connected to the earth the same way the earth is connected to us. The earth's sentient like we are. It knows exactly what's going on. You know what I mean? It's like your body's aware. When you've got a problem, your body's aware when you've got an illness, and you display that through being disease. When you in a constant fear-based issue that you've got in your body then you see that through sickness, and therefore you know that you have to look after yourself and put yourself in a better frame of mind mentally, and when your mind starts to change, everything physically starts to change. So I agree with Rob entirely. The biggest battle is for the mind, which is why they're constantly doing this trauma-based, fear-based programming magic. What we're doing is exposing that side of it and saying to you, do you know what it is? To be honest with you, now you know the truth. Look at something different. Be something different. Be the change you want to see in the world. And therefore you have to conduct yourself like that in the world by sending out that positive vibration, by being that positive vibration, by speaking that positive vibration, and by doing that positive vibration. Rob does it by sending out, if somebody sends you a contract, refusing the contract because they're not your authority. We know they're not an authority. We know it's an illusion. We can prove that by rebutting them back in law, in honor, using law of correspondence. I'll be honest with you, Tom, they're using the real laws like law of polarity, which is just energy going one way, energy going the other way. One's going in a negative way, one's going in a positive way. That's all they do, is not what two things going on here. There's only one. It's just energy flowing one way, energy flowing the other way. The issue is what we're doing by having shows like this and exposing this truth He's getting people to think differently, letting them see things differently, and let them see the truth for themselves, and at least then make a decision that they can put something positive back into the world, be that change they want to see in the world, and don't have to get caught with all this fraudulent foolishness that we don't need anyway. So I'll just stop there, Andy. I've got plenty more to go with, but I'll just stop there because Tom, because you were saying something.
Yeah, the whole mind control would stop a show like this, exploring the subject. Obviously the reptilian thing, people like it, some people don't go for it, but it's no reason not to explore it as a subject, because some people believe in it, some people don't, but it brings up other subjects when you're talking about it, because it's all linked into one.
Correct. Everything's interlinked. That's what I'm saying to you. The problem is, Tom, is we've been programmed so much into third density that people are not waking up their own. I told you, Tom, I've been spiritual for quite a while now, and so I'm able to see things beyond because my mentality is beyond. And so people are programmed to see things through these beady little, small little balls called eyes in third density, and you're only seeing a tiny spectrum of the entire light spectrum and in the entire universe. And people just because they can't see beyond that, then it's just because we don't see it, then it's not there. No, that's been the problem with the priesthood programming everybody into this trauma-based, root-based chakra, keeping everybody locked down and not allowing themselves to reach their full potential. I agree with Tom entirely. I completely agree with you. And so everybody's trying, like Rob was saying, everybody's trying to restrict themselves. What we want to do is push the negative away, expose it, show everybody for what it is, but then allow people to think, right, it's a lot of fraud, it's an illusion. What do I want? Instead of seeing that in the world, what can I do myself to see a better change in the world? I do it through sending back, refusing council tax letters. I do it by refusing to acknowledge them as authorities. I don't know how to deal with them during commerce, but I also do it by being spiritually active. I also do it by physically active, being down here. I also do it by doing shows like this with you guys and putting out truth and showing people the fraud, and then letting people do their own due diligence themselves. And as I've said, regarding some of the links, Andy knows me, I've got some links to send to Andy and he'll get them, and people can do their own due diligence. I'll send Andy the links probably a couple of days from now that I've been doing, and they can go and look at this stuff themselves, and they need to invest in themselves to see that truth. They see it going on, Tom, they just don't know why. What I want to put out tonight is to show people that they are bringing in a new system, they have full intention of bringing in a new system, but you don't have to be subscribing to that new system in the way that they want you to. Because remember, everything requires your consent, which is your free dominion, which is your mind. Your mind. They have to get us to agree to this. That's what, as we were probably earlier on, that's what makes the reality. And so if they've got you in a fear-based mindset, where they're telling you have to do this and you have to do that, and then you send out that vibration, that then comes back to you and using law of correspondence, and then that becomes your reality. That's programming. This is what we've been talking about. So I agree with you entirely, Andy. We need to be looking at, and Tom, we need to be looking at things completely differently, completely different mindset, and the only way you can do that is to know who your enemy really is and what they've been up to, in order to realise that you've actually got an enemy or there is a problem, and therefore you can know what the problem is, so you can turn away from that problem and start focusing on yourself and confirm the truth inside yourself, and the real God is inside of you, and you are what's real, and you have free dominion over your own soul anyway. So I'll stop there, Tom. I've not done, but I'll stop there.
Can I just jump in there?
Please do, Rob.
Oh, thanks. The whole thing, no matter what level you're viewing or perceiving this whole system of slavery, because that's what it is, whichever level you're viewing it from, whether it's grassroots level or a really high metaphysical level, the whole thing is key, is what Del said, I'm sure we all know, is consent. For some reason, whether it's a universal law and filtered down to right at the bottom, we have to give consent in some form. The trick is, pardon?
Correct.
Yeah, the trick is from I'll call them the other side, or for whoever they are, the trick is that they manufacture consent. And what I mean by that is, if you've got to it's got to appear to give somebody a free choice. So how do you give somebody a free choice and still force them into consent? Sounds like an oxymoron, doesn't it? Force you into consent. So the only way you can do it is to limit someone's options. In effect, you've got a two-party system where people vote for the country, don't they? Same in America. So by limiting people's options, you still give the illusion that they've got a free choice and they can choose. But how do you limit people's options? And that's where the mind control comes in. I think somebody said thinking outside the box. without getting too heavy into stuff, that's what it's all about. They're squaring, for want of a better phrase, they're squaring the circle, whether it's Freemasonic, and I know it is at some level, but what they're doing is they're squaring the circle of life where we originate from, and that runs through us, has been squared by this programming. And as it's been squared, thus it's been pushed into a box, thus it's put limitations on it. And because they've enforced limitations, they've then diminished the amount of choices, and yet we get to choose from a small spectrum and think we've got free choice. Does that sort of make sense?
Absolutely, yeah. Rob. That's great, mate. Yeah.
Yep, and that's correct in terms of energy, which we was on about earlier on, because this planet is our Terra, Fred density Earth, is feminine, and that's why every child that comes, every soul that comes here has to come through the womb, through the woman. Fundamental. No one can argue it's fundamental. Just like that, we're talking about earlier on with certain creatures that are down here, like insectoids and reptiles. They're fundamental. They're down here, so that's proof that everything exists. As above, so below. So everything that's down here is also out there in the universe as well. That's the only thing I can say in terms of proof. Because if we're down here existing, it's like that in the universe. So that's fundamental. That we exist, so everything else must exist because we're here as proof of that. So Rob's correct. And what they're doing is, the planet spins on female sexual energy. They know this. And when that spiral curve is spinning, it allows everything to be unlimited. What the priests would have done with these reptilians they're serving, the priests that we're working with, is they've done what Rob's called this it's the pharaonic energy, the male energy, and they've got everything wrapped into squares. This is why your windows are square factually, this is why your books are square. You see everything's into squares because it's programming you, and that program is limiting you into the choices that Rob's talking about, and that's fundamental. You see that? Don't take my word for it. Go look at windows, go look at books. You'll see it yourself. Everything's in squares. There's a lot of things that are in squares. Your laptops are square. They're all squares. And that's because that energy locks you into that box. And they use that pharaonic energy, which is the 33 degrees of knowledge that they took out of Hikupta, which today you call Egypt. And that's that knowledge that's in the Vatican today, whereas the 360 went into the inner earth and the 720 went back up to Sirius. So they've used that energy and used that knowledge, and that knowledge is what they're using this fear-based programming to control the souls on this planet right now, using this ritualistic stuff that we've been talking about, which I want to get more into the Saturnian and Baalism and touch a bit more of that side of it at some point. But Rob's spot on, and that's what they're doing, because it limits your choices and it sticks you into that box and it locks you down, and that's what they cut off the higher level of consciousness, and that's what the priesthood have been doing. This is what money's about, and I think I've talked about this on Tom's show before. Money being a pound in gold represents the sun. That's high consciousness. You've got your moon being in silver, as it relates to money in silver. That controls the moon. The moon controls the seas and currency. And obviously brown or copper coins relates to Venus, which is the planet of love. And that's your heart. And this is what I'm saying. And people don't learn about what's going on in the solar system and how the planets affect each other and how it's all interlinked together. And that's because the cosmogony and the cosmology and astrophysiology is done by the priesthood. And they keep it for themselves, but they don't give it to the people on the ground and the masses, but they give us a religion. But a lot of this symbolism and a lot of this information is actually in their books anyway, but people don't know how to read it from a metaphysical, etymological perspective. They just can read it from a literal perspective. I'll just stop there, Tom, and because I know somebody wanted to say something, but go ahead.
No, go ahead, Del. You've got a lot of things to talk about tonight, so I want you to have a free license to talk about whatever.
All right, cheers, Tom. That's fine. I can get started on what I wanted to get on. Now, basically, regarding the what's going on with the equinox solstice and the blood moon, is basically what's happening is it's numerology, which is another science that controls the planet that they're using, and symbology, which you know about, and astrotheology. So they know that the energies on this planet, when the moon turns red because of the other elements of the sun and the planets being aligned together, they know that creates a certain energy on this planet, and what they do is they harness and harvest that energy in these churches, which is why your churches are on the ley lines and these temples are on the ley lines. They do the rituals and harness this energy and then use that to keep themselves in power. This is what Rob's talking about, and that's put into these square temples, and that's what we want to get into. So basically, you've got the priests who are using what's called the cult of Saturnalia, basically the priests have the cult of Saturnalia, and they also have the octagon, which is on the A, and they also have the Baalism. They're under the cult of Baal, and basically these temples are in places like ancient Sumer. They're in places like Syria. They're in places like Lebanon. And basically what I want to get into is the temples that they've been building, and these temples is where they do this ritualistic aspect of this magic that they're using, and a lot of these temples are actually in the countries that we are in today in terms of London. So if everybody looks factually, and don't take my word for it, do your own due diligence. I want people to look at the Bank of England, and then I want you to look at the Whitehall in London, and then have a look at the British Museum, and you notice they've got big temples, and these temples have 8 pillars, and that 8 pillars relates to the cult of Saturnalia and the Octagon Templars, and it's the same thing with in Capitol Hill in the States, with the Supreme Court building. You'll see the 8 pillars. So this energy that they're transforming throughout they take throughout the world with them with this knowledge, they build these temples on the ley lines, and they use the energy to then program the souls. So all your big places of real power are built like churches or temples, and you'll notice that if you look at the Royal Courts of Justice, it looks like a church. Most of these places look like churches and temples, and that's because of the knowledge that they have, and they're venerating themselves in there to keep themselves in power. So I just want to stop there and let Tom speak, and then I'm going to get in another aspect before I move on.
So why are they all temples? So it's kind of like keeping the worship thing going and everybody gathering in one place.
Yes, Tom, yeah. What they're doing is, they in order to program the souls on this planet, they need to have these temples built on certain ley lines. And in these temples, they have altars to these reptilians and these other entities and all these black magic that they're doing. And basically, each temple will have the same altars in there. They'll have all the same stuff in each temple. Now, there's a temple of what's called I'll spell it. It's Vespasian. I can't pronounce it, but it's a Latin to Vespasian. Vespasian, and Titus. Okay, that's the temple of Saturn. The temple of Saturn. That's opposite it's in Rome, and opposite the necropolis in Rome. So you'll see. I want to show people where these ancient power structures actually are, and you'll see the 8 pillars. So when they took the knowledge from Hiccup, or today you call it Egypt, a lot of the knowledge went to these other countries like Syria, Lebanon, and then it went over to Rome, and then from Rome it went to like London, into Switzerland, and then into the United States Corporation. And these same temples, you can see the same kind of architecture, Tom, at Whitehall, Cheshire in London. You can see it at the US Supreme Court building. And you can see it in the Bank of Switzerland. I've actually got the pictures in front of me. You can see it at the Bank of England and the Bank of Switzerland. Alright, and you can see these same buildings with the same pillars, and that's what I want to get into, is recognizing the same buildings, so that you see the same power structure, runs throughout, like Rob was saying, runs throughout the whole system. And the symbolistic side of it is you'll see the cross, with the Maltese crossing it with the red and white, and that refers to the octagon and the Templars. And the octagon, they use the octagon and the squares, and use this Saturnalia energy to program the people on this planet, and that's what they've been doing. And you'll notice a lot of the symbolism is in the buildings, as well as in the flags of the countries, as well as in other symbolistic cultures in like Freemasonry and stuff like that.
So where do people come into the picture? Obviously, what we talked about earlier, I said you're talking about the Vatican influence over governments, but what about the secret societies? How does everything come into the picture, and how does it control the whole thing overall?
Yeah, good question, Tom. Love it. Good question, Tom. Let's go there. All right. Well, I mentioned it earlier, but I'll talk about it slightly briefly, and then I'll touch on what Tom wants to know. And I agree with him. I agree with you again, Tom. So you have what's called grand architects, which are your priesthood, which is like Pope Francis, Adolfo Nicholas, the Archangel of Atlantis, your palpability bloodline families, the 13 families, basically at the top with these reptilian entities from Draco and all the rest of it. They're all working together hand in hand. Then that programming, Tom, will then filter down into your top secret societies, which are called the Knights of Malta. Okay, I'm going to talk a little bit about the Knights of Malta now. Okay, so the Knights of Malta are basically a sovereign military order who work closely with the Jesuits. Okay, so I'm going to talk about a bit about the Vatican and the Jesuits. So the Society of Jesus, basically, since 1814, have complete control and obscene wealth, and basically they work closely with certain orders throughout the world. So the Knights of Malta control the UN, they control NATO, the European Commission, the Council for Foreign Relations, all central banks, all mega corporations, and all secret services, as well as secret societies like Freemasonry and Opus Dei. And so basically it's a sovereign order. And basically, I will tell you this, that since roughly about 1929, when the Vatican got the Lateran Treaty signed and they got their first head of state, the Roman Curia has been running the planet, or the Holy See. Basically, the head of state is the Pope and his cabinet, which is the Holy See, which consists of papal hereditary monarchy and the Curia. It also consists of the Central Vatican Bank, and then it deals with the canon law and admiralty law. So those are in the Curia, and then every corporation on this planet, everybody is under the same thing, Tom, through the birth certificate. So all the corporations on the planet have a central bank, will have like a church, and will have a Saturn temple, which this country has. The Saturn temple is the Whitehall and the Bank of England is a Saturnalia temple. And these institutions are where the monetary issue is controlled, and that's how the money, or munai, is controlled through the currencies, and that controls the souls, the Sea of Soul, the Sea of Souls, which is the Holy See, which is what the Pope controls. And that's what they're really talking about, the control. They're talking about the control of the energy and currency, and that's why money is energy, and that's why they need to control the money here, because it controls the people here. So once you get into that side of it, and you've seen that side of it with the Knights of Malta, they then will break down into your top level of Freemasonry, and then from Freemasonry you've got different Freemason aspects, like the York Rite, you have the Scottish Rite, and then you also have what's called the Shriners, and you have to be a 32-degree Freemason to be a Shriner, and Shriner is where you learn the esoteric knowledge, which is some of the stuff that I've been talking about earlier on in terms of these off-world entities and on-world entities. You learn that there in the shrine, and that's what the shrine is for. And they have on what's called a fez in their secret societies, and that is where they put the Bible down, they pick up the Quran, and then they learn the top esoteric knowledge, and then they learn about how the planets run through the Jesuit order. So I'm just going to say this before I run through the Order of Malta has around about members. And it basically, most of your world's leaders take what's called a blood oath. And when they take their blood oath, they agree to serve the priesthood, the Jesuit order, and therefore once they come under that jurisdiction, that's why they're able to be in every powerful position. So Obama's a high-level Freemason, and he's got a blood oath. Joe Biden's a Knight of Malta, and he's got a blood oath. Tony Blair's a Knight of Malta, he's got a blood oath. David Cameron's a part of Knight of the Garter, which is a military order that work in this country that can work for the Vatican. So the Vatican stretches its arms out for the Jesuit order through these order of the Maltese Cross, order of the Saint John of Jerusalem, order of the Knights of the Golden Circle. I mean, there's so many, Tom. Tom, I could be here all night talking about them. The different orders that they have, but the point is they use these orders at the top end to control all the world's governments and corporations, and so all the corporations will have Knights of Malta in, and basically that's how they control the corporations, and then that then filters down to the police who were part of the Freemasonic lodge, and then that then filters down to us, and that's how everybody's controlled. So I hope that explains that a little bit there, Tom, and I'll stop there and then just let you ask anything else you wanted to say.
Thanks, Del. Well, I've just noticed the first hour has whizzed by, as it always does, and I know you guys have got a lot of information you want to get out tonight. Now, what we normally do is we normally play a couple of tunes to break things up, give everybody a chance to make a brew, get a drink, whatever you want, even a wee break. But if you guys want to keep rattling on, I'm happy to do that. Your call.
ask Rob what he wants to do. I'm fine either way.
Rob?
I really could do with a pee.
Okay. Well,
so I'll go and have one anyway.
We'll stick a tune on for a couple of minutes.
Yeah, put a tune.
Yeah, put a tune on then.
We'll have Cab Calloway on, and we'll be back in just... Hi, and welcome back to Enemy Within on peoplesinternetradio.com, where we are seeking solutions and having a fascinating talk with Delroy Henry and Rob Freeman tonight, and of course Tom, who's not always able to join us, so it's great when he can. And I'd just like to say, before we carry on, that for those of you who are not already aware, People's Internet Radio, we all do what we do because we believe the information needs to be got out there, and it's entirely voluntary, but we do need money, unfortunately, to keep the wheels rolling, and there's a donate button just underneath the player on the site. So if you've got any spare cash and you like what we're doing, if you could drop us 1, 2, 3 or whatever you can afford of your currency units, whether it be shekels, lotties, pounds, dollars, or whatever you want, it would be gratefully received. Thank you. Now, before we go back to Del or Rob, whoever wants to comment on this one, we had a comment from Vin, who is the station manager, a little bit back up there, and Vin said... let me find it. There it is. While the guest may be correct about the beliefs of those that built these structures, that doesn't mean the energy they claim to collect even exists. And he said, just a little bit later, no one runs the planet, only individuals can acquiesce to control. Who'd like to go with that one?
Is he dressing? Is he coming? Is he? I'm quite happy to. I'm quite happy to
go ahead, Del.
Yeah. I was just going to finish off these. I was just going to end off what Tom was saying. They're also, in terms of what I was just saying, just finish off with what Tom was saying. There is certain universities where people go to study who are under their sort of like influence in terms of their jurisdiction. So it's certain institutions like Georgetown University, Fordham University, and Fairfield University, and there's also other institutions. I'm not going to get into all of them, but like Harvard and Yale and Oxford. There's certain institutions where your leaders, or so-called high-level leaders, and people who have most of the wealth in terms of these corporations on this planet also study at those kind of institutions where they take these initiations and agree to have this so-called power. Now, can you just just roll back to me what Vin had said?
Yeah, let me just scroll back through the chat room because it's a busy old chat room. Thanks everybody for joining us tonight. And we've got somebody rather special who I haven't seen in the PIR chat room while we've been here before. And that's Wendy Adams, the lady with a voice that's sexier than chocolate. Thanks ever so much for joining us tonight, Wendy, and it's really great to have you along. The question was, not really a question, statement. While the guest may be correct, it's scrolling back on me. While the guest may be correct about the beliefs of those that build these structures, that doesn't mean the energy they claim to collect even exists. And he goes on to add to that, no one runs the planet, only individuals can acquiesce to control.
Interesting. There's two sides to that. I agree with him. Yes, because yes and no. Because I do agree with him, because again, they claim that they've got this, that and the other, but again, that, like me and Rob were saying earlier, again, they have to require, and I agree with him to some degree, they require our consent. And he's right, because you have freedom in of your own soul. But they do have influence, because they wouldn't be doing, I'll give an example of this, right? If they didn't have no influence, they wouldn't spend all the time murdering everybody off, doing these rituals that they're consistently doing, if it didn't have an effect somewhere. So they do have they're doing this ritualistically for a reason, and they've definitely they have influence. But I agree with him, yes and no, because he's right, because they cannot, they only control us in the sense that they try to control us in the sense that, they use this ritualistic programming to program us, and as a result, as us being in fear, we draw that to us, and then that creates this reality. I agree with him, but that means they have to go through us, and they need us to do it through. And that's what I was saying with Rob earlier on. So I agree where it's coming from, in terms of what he's saying. But they are doing this stuff. So there is energies that are in this solar system, period, on the planet. If there was no energy that was on the planet, then the planet wouldn't spin. The universe wouldn't vibrate. So I don't know if he's talking about that specifically. There is energies that come onto this planet, and everything is interlinked, because we breathe. We're vibrating now. That's energy. So there is energy in terms of the planet, and they use this, and they are doing it, because they wouldn't be putting this program if it wasn't out there. And it does have an influence on what's going on here, because you constantly see them putting this out there. But he is right, because they have to come through us to get this job done. And so he's right. So if everybody wakes, more people were awake and didn't even follow this stuff and turned it off and got rid of it, it wouldn't have the same effect. So I agree with him, yes and no. There's an aspect to this. It's a yes and no, because he is right. Because they do need us. They do need to go through us in order to get the stuff done. So I agree with him, yes and no. There's parts of that, yes and no. Okay.
Thanks for that, Dale.
Can I just jump in there as well, please?
Yeah, go ahead, Rob.
Yeah, just what Vin said there. I scribbled it down because it was a bit hit and miss with the sound. Individuals acquiesce to control, absolutely spot on phrase for me, that. And that's what I meant earlier when I said we're doing it to ourselves. Yeah. So I absolutely agree that we acquiesce to control through fear. It's all fear-based. Yeah. So I agree with that, but the energy that I'm specifically talking about is that the energy that fuels us, that runs through planet Earth and runs through us. I think we can't deny that there is some sort of energy, because, if you had two twins, for instance, laid down next to each other, one were dead and one were alive but asleep, you can tell the one that's dead, there's an energy, a life force, something gone. So we can't deny the fact that there are energies, and that we are, to some extent at least, energy. And that's the acquiescing to control through fear, like Vin says, absolutely spot on. Somebody somewhere, more intelligent than most of us, but probably not as spiritually evolved, have got the talent, through whatever means, to manipulate that energy. So that's the type of control that I'm talking about. It's not control per se, because we are acquiescing, but we're acquiescing through fear. And when you think people talk about magic, and there are magical things do actually happen, it's the same sort of thing. This energy, all it is manipulation of energy. I do not strongly know that there are some intelligent beings that are really adept at directing and manipulating energy flows. And for me, on a higher level, that's what's happening to us. But Vin's absolutely spot on there, in my opinion. It's all about individuals acquiescing to control, and it's because of fear. Okay, I'll put it back there.
Cheers, Rob. And
can I just jump in and say hello to Wendy Adams? I didn't know she was here. I've not spoken to her for a while. I haven't got the chat room. So if you're still listening, Wendy, hi. Okay, sorry about
that. No, that's fine, Rob. No, that's what I was saying to you, and that's why they've got all this programming, because it has to have an influence, because if it didn't, they wouldn't be doing it. It wouldn't make no sense. And then humanity, period, wouldn't be in the state that it's in. So there is manipulation going on, definitely 100%, and they're doing it, but they're getting us to agree to it, and because we're getting involved with it in it all, and we're then pushing that same energy back into the planet, that's becoming reality. That's what Rob's saying. I'm agreeing with him, but they're doing this deliberately, because we don't need all this madness in the first place, but that's because people have been programmed so badly on this planet because of what they've been doing, that what we're trying to do here is to see people see the truth, so that they don't have to give that energy in that way acquiesce to it, and actually stand on their own 2 feet and not even be caught up in this illusion, and therefore they don't have to be in what Vin said. We don't have to give anything to them in the first place, and therefore whatever it is they're doing wouldn't work anyway. It's just that people are being manipulated, and I agree with Rob and Vin in that respect, but they're doing that for a reason, and that's why they've got these temples set up. Now I'm just going to get into this Saturnalia business that I wanted to talk about, and that goes back to this Kronos, and Saturn is a Roman god, and it's being conflated with the name Kronos, and the personification of the time in classic iniquity. So basically, the father time, or the Pope, or father, or Papa, is that's what I'm getting at with Rob. It's what they've been doing to try and keep themselves apart. So they're manipulating certain energy in these places. That's why they built these places. You'll see it all over the place. They're not doing it for the sake of doing it. They're doing it for a reason. And that's why they've got these temples, because in order, that's how they, and they're built on ley lines, and they use that to do what they're doing to us to this day. But they need us to make it work. That's why I agree with Vin and Rob what he's saying. They need us to make it work. And if we can expose this side of it to people, that it's just, they're doing occult black magic practices, that people would then think, oh, well, they're going over there doing that, we just can ignore them because we know it's all a falsehood, it's all an illusion, it's all rubbish, doesn't have no effect on us. But while people are, like Rob said earlier on with the unconscious, while people are not aware of this, they actually are being programmed, we're using subliminal messaging, and that's that same program, the same actions that you're seeing people killing each other, or war and all this madness that's going on, that same fear of all that is then being pushed back into the planet through our souls, through us, and then we're getting this low vibration which is keeping us locked down here and locking off the higher consciousness. So I'll stop there before I go any further.
No, that's fine. You carry on, Del.
Yeah, so they do this numerologically, specifically. So you've got, I'll give you an example of a ritual that they specifically did. When they had for instance, had the royal wedding, and it was on the 29th it was on the 29th of the 11th, 2011. Now, I'm just going to talk about Saturn and how they use this, or how they're trying to use this energy. Because what Vin's saying is essentially correct. They still have to go through us, but there's a deliberateness behind what they're doing in order for them to do what they're trying, or in order for them to try and get done what they're doing in order for them to keep themselves in control, or try, should I say, to control. Because I agree with, they can't control, they try to control through manipulation, but they need us to agree to it. He's right, I agree with what he's saying, because once you know the truth, you don't then get caught up in that illusion, and therefore that doesn't then have its effect on you, therefore it's not programming you, and so therefore Vin's right in what he's saying, so I'm not disagreeing with him. It's just that these people, that what they're doing, there's a specific reason why they're doing what they're doing, and they're doing that in order to gain something out of it energetically wise, and that's why they're building these places. Because if you look at all the important places, you will find these temples on these places. And what I then decided to look at, I thought, well, this don't make sense. Why they're building these places and churches, the same kind of buildings in all the important places? And when I started to look into that, then I started to find there was in Rome, in England, in Syria, and all these different places. But what was interesting was I found the same sort of temples. So once I then found the same sort of temples, I thought, well, there must be what these temples then in there, and then why they're building them and what's going on. And that's when I got into this. So I just want to talk about this. And the Saturn energy is like the father energy. So that's that male energy, that father energy, and that's what the priests are currently using in terms of squares, in terms of the square energy, to try and keep us off the spin off the circle. They're putting us into, or they're trying, should I say, because I'm agreeing with Ben, they're trying to put us into these squares. And with people who are unconscious, and the unconscious mind, that's working against them, because they're bringing that fear towards them by thinking that fear, because they've agreed to that fear, and they're also going out and doing stuff out of fear because they keep thinking that somebody's coming to get them because of all the illusional stuff and magic that's going on, and that's happening and everybody's seeing it. So that can't be denied. So there's got to be a reason why they're doing it, and what I wanted to get into was what's going on behind them and what they're actually doing, so we can see it as an illusion and a false construct, so people can see that and then take themselves out of that and away from that illusion and put themselves in a positive vibration and leave the magic alone and not even bother with it, not even get caught up in it, with it anyway. So then whatever they're doing, it's not going to have an effect anyway. Is that alright, Andy? I can keep going, or do I need to stop?
No, as far as I'm concerned, you keep going, unless Rob's got anything to add to that.
No, just keep going, Dal. I'm enjoying it.
Alright. So, in the resonance, the combination of Kronos, giver of father of time, wielding the harvesting scythe, and this is the what I'm talking about, the cult Saturnalian now. Now, Saturn only rules 9/11, but over the Jesuit time codes, and there was precisely 66 years between the dates April the 29th, 1945, where Adolf and Eva got married, okay, in Further Bunker. This is some research I've been doing. And the 29th of
we lost Del.
You dropped out a bit there. Yeah, that tends to happen when Lee, I was just reading what Lee was saying in the chat room. When Del's talking about what he does, he seems to get cut off quite regularly. But are you able to jump in there, Rob, while we try and get Del back in?
Yeah, I weren't quite sure what Del was saying there because it kept drifting in and out. I'll let him continue what he was saying, but until he comes back, as we know, this whole system, even at the level Del's talking about, it's all about us bowing to authority. That's the whole game, really. We know from every walk of life, from being a little kid, that's what school, these schools, national schools, they force most kids to go to because the parents don't know any better. The whole system at school, for instance, is from an early age is to learn how to bow to authority. Even parenting, we did it ourselves to our own kids. We just copied what our parents did to us. But it's not just that, it's the religious institutions that Del's talking about, even science to a degree, but every institution you can think of has a hierarchy. And the whole system really is to get us to bow to authority. And that's one thing I've never been good at, and I guess most of the people listening to this haven't been really good at that. And so at what level Del's talking at, or whether people agree or not, or at any level, in fact, Vin, on one of his podcasts I was watching, he quoted from a book called The End of All, I think The End of All Evil. And I've been reading that book for a few years now, I've read it a few times. And it's a great book, and this talks about how authority really is the evil that's been created. It's a tool, really. We are programmed that all the program really is to bow to authority, and the only way they can do that, this tyrannical system, is to devalue the individual. A man or woman, the whole system makes us valueless. We don't think we've got any worth, and so again, it's like that box that we get pushed into again. So recognising and bowing to authority is the tool that they use. So I thought that was interesting. But until Del comes back, can I just mention I read a lot? Can I mention a couple of good books, especially people we're into common law and and your rights through courts. I've just finished for the third time. This is an excellent book. This book was written nearly 500 years ago, to be honest. And if our listeners have heard of him, it's a Frenchman called Etienne de la Boétie. Etienne de la Boétie. Have you heard of him, fellas?
I haven't, no, Rob.
Okay, well, he wrote this when he was a law student, I think just under 500 years ago. And the book it's really cheap as well, and it's only about 50 pages long, 40 odd pages long. So it's Etienne de la Boétie, and the book's called The Politics of Obedience, The Discourse of Voluntary Servitude. Now, when you read this book, in fact, I've highlighted certain parts on it, it's unbelievable. So what's happening now is nothing new. This is just under 500 years old when he wrote this. In fact, he wrote it when he was a law student, and then when he qualified, he joined the system. But as a young kid when he wrote the book, it's got some unbelievable quotes. And so we can say that the very things that were happening 500 years ago, or thereabouts, are still happening now. And we talk about the Vatican and the Jesuits and stuff, and they've probably been running the show for about 2,000 years. I don't know for sure. Yeah? Okay, so I'll let you back in a sec. But the system is not new. In my opinion, it's been through the millennia. It's the same system. Just the mask changes, the face changes, the name changes, but the system has to carry on and carry on doing what it's doing. So I'm going to put you back on that. I'm just going to mention another book here, and it's another Frenchman, this one. And this is an incredible book. This was written in around 84 or 5 or something. And then I'll put you back on to Del. Another Frenchman, just by chance. This is, I can't pronounce this, Jean Baudrillard. I've probably pronounced that wrong. Jean, as in a female name, English name Jean, but it's pronounced John. So Jean, and his surname is Baudrillard, Baudrillard. And it's a great book by this Frenchman called Simulacra and Simulation. It's that good a book. First time I read it, I thought, what the fucking hell is all that about? And I'm an avid reader, so I can read quick. And so I read it a second time, and I thought, oh, I've got a bit of an angle on this. Anyway, I've just read it completely a third time. And it's unbelievable. It's a great, great book, Simulacra and Simulation. And what it tells about is how the ones wanting to control us, seeking to control us, are offering a synthetic substitute for everything. Because they can't exactly create themselves, what they do is, and it's what I've been saying for years, they make a synthetic copy of natural occurring systems, and that's what we're being offered. And this book goes into great stuff, and it came out just as the computer age was starting. So this was written in 84, 85, and it's still valid today. So yeah, I've looked at that simulacrum and simulation, all about that mind control, but how they're creating a synthetic alternative that most humanity is buying into. Okay, so I'll put you back onto the door. Cheers for that.
You're back.
Yeah, right. Yeah. It's funny, isn't it? It keeps going out when I start talking about certain things.
Isn't it funny? It just fades out. We have a couple of guests that happens too. It's only particular guests where it just fades out.
And Fritz did mention there, well, he did mention old Adolf, didn't he?
Fritz is funny. Yeah, right, I don't want to take up too much time. I was going to talk about a little bit what I wanted to say and then come back. What I was talking about was the court of Saturnalia and Baal. So I'm just going to talk about the Saturnalian Brotherhood. And it's it's basically the energies of this, every planet, and people don't like me to go into detail, but you'll see soon enough, every planet in this solar system is interlinked. It's all connected. Everything about the universe is connected. People have just been so programmed on this planet that they've refused to accept it, but you cannot force anybody to see anything beyond their own free will. So this is what I'm putting out. Do your own due diligence. This is what I've studied, and I've gone further than this, and I've had my own personal experiences. But it's, you either take it as it is, and you do your own thing. Because I'm not here to convince anybody. I'm just saying the popes over abroad is in the States. They're doing rituals. They have to be doing it for a reason. There's something going on, and what I'm doing is questioning what's going on. And this is what I came up with. This is some of the things that I have found out. There's some things I can't talk about because I could be here for hours, and it would be like with I think I can't remember the guy came in and was talking about reptilians and stuff. There's plenty of information I know more about it, but it would just take me off where we're trying to be today. And I want to try and stay where we wanted to be on this Baal priest and the Brotherhood of Saturnalia and the magic aspect of it, with what's going on in terms of the world, in terms of them programming. Now, I want to stay where I am, and then I want to move more to what they're going to try and what some of the things that people will begin to see in the so-called future. One thing I will say, and I do agree with Rob on this, and probably Tom will probably agree with me on this as well. They constantly, and probably Vin may even agree, they constantly want to try and get us off dealing with where we are right now. They always want us to look at something that's coming. I've got futurism. The Jesuits, big martyr, it's futurism. They always want you to look into the past, and the consistent want to look into the future. The one thing that everybody puts you off is the now. And the one thing I want people to do is use a concentrated thought, be positive, and do a lot in the now. Because, the ritual aspect of it is going on. You'll see it's going on now. And the thing about now is now is the thing that we actually affect. And then that sets the vibrations out, and then that's what we're then using the law of correspondence. That then comes back, and we see that in whatever program that it is that they're trying to push over. So basically, the occults of Saturn, the core of control over planet Earth or populace, lies in the ancient cults. These cults are still in existence to this day, following the most ancient religions mixed with sexual worship, and I was talking about that with the Pharaonic dynasties and female sexual energy. The main cults of worship are planet Saturn, which is El, Moon meaning Isis, Venus meaning Lucifer, and Sun meaning Ra. Okay? So, and basically they know that the real science that's involved with the energies in this solar system and what happens on Earth in terms of feathers Earth is with the planets. And Saturn is basically, Saturn is many things, but the coloration many don't want to see is Saturn or Satan identifies him as the Grim Reaper. And this is what I see with these priests. So what the priests are doing is they're almost putting themselves in the personification of that as the Grim Reapers. This is why when they come into court, okay, they wear the black robes. When they come into any court, you see them, they wear these black robes, you see them all the time. And I'm going to tell you why they do this, and that's what we're going to get into now. Now, basically, the priests worship Saturn and Baalism. Baalism is a theology and an ancient cult originated back to 2500 BCE in northern Syria in honor of the perceived god of rain, thunder, fertility and agriculture, and the Lord of heaven, hence Baal. Okay, and Baal literally means Lord. As in ancient fertility religion, Baalism is infamous for one of the oldest, most murderous fertility cults. In particular, the sacrifice of firstborn children, the ritual murder of children, including cannibalism, as well as the sacred ritual of the Holocaust by burning men and women, especially children, by death by fire. So I'm just going to keep going. And we see this all over the world. You see children being kidnapped all the time, being taken, and this is because this is what they're doing with the children. They're being ritually sacrificed, and it's been well documented. Kevin Arnett's talked about it. It's been well documented. If anybody wants factual information, look into some of the work that Kevin Arnett has done. It's been well documented by a lot of people. Just continue to where it was. The most sacred temple of Baal is in Baalbek, first created by King Solomon in around, I'm just going to give the dates, around about 1245 BC. Okay? Mm-hmm. The sacred temple is known by the Holy Roman Empire from the beginning until 325 CE was King Solomon's temple at Baalbek, which the Romans named the Heliopolis, and built the great temple to Jupiter, which is Baal, or Jupiter. Peter, Pope Francis sits on the throne of Peter. All emperors were consecrated at Baalbek until the 3rd century CE. And due to the age and of importance of Baal, several significant incarnations of this deity emerged throughout history, including but not limited to Hadad, Baal, Molech, and Hanan. The names of Hadad or Zaphni arguably are the oldest of the tradition. Okay, so basically I just want to talk about the ancient cults. Now, basically, what happened in these ancient cults is they built the temples and then they moved the kind of artifacts around the world, and basically now these artifacts are actually most of them are in what's called the Vatican, in the Vatican's libraries, and that's most of where the bulk of them are actually stationed. They're in the Vatican's Vatican catacombs near the Church of Judicial in Rome, and most of them are held by the Jesuit priesthood. So this cultism and this cult that they're a part of, they've been doing this, has been here for hundreds, if not thousands of years, and so they're using this consistently to try and do this ritualistic worship to try and keep themselves in power. Now, I agree with what Vin was saying earlier to quite a lot of degree. They're doing this to put themselves in a position whereby people see them as people of authority, which is where Rob's coming from, and I agree with him. The issue, what we need to see him as, what I'm seeing him as, because of murders and rituals cult, is I'm seeing him as not authority by not contracting or by not consenting. And that's what I want to make very clear to everybody today, is that you don't have to contract, you don't have to consent, and these people are not an authority. I'm going to tell you today, it's all an illusion, it's all a falsehood, and anything that they're doing is trying to take your energy and turn that on a negative spin and get you to agree to that negative spin, and then that becomes this reality, which is what we're seeing today with all this madness going on. So I'll stop there and then let anybody comment.
Mm-hmm. So they're using energies and they're feeding off energies and
yes,
projecting negative energy.
Yes, agreed, through symbolism, agreed, Tom. And that negative energy is very trauma-based, and that's why you constantly see children being murdered, war going on all the time. You know, people on this planet are not in peace, but we should be in peace, respecting one another, corresponding with one another. But everybody's constantly at war on this planet. They're murdering, all the people are murdering, being killed, or something being negative all the time. There's always something negative going on all the time, and you're right, Tom, and I agree, and that we've got to change some of that negative spin and put a positive spin on it and come away from the madness. I agree with you, Tom, completely.
I think the biggest example of authority, false authority, is royalty. Because somehow putting a fur coat on and a silly hat makes you an authority. You're somehow better than anybody else because you've been born into it. People should bow to you because you wear a fur coat and a hat and you've been born into it. No. In normal ways of thinking, people would think, that's stupid, especially in the 21st century. You would think that's a stupid way of doing things, but still, royalty exists. But royalty has no power, of course.
Oh no, we're always told that. We've got so many questions in the chat room, and the chat's scrolling up about 100 miles an hour. It's really difficult to keep pace. There was one that Lee put in there, Unique Lee. Good evening, your uniqueness. And he says, question for the guest Del, the Pope. What deity does he believe he serves, and can he explain the bent cross means that Francis carries around with him?
And just before you answer that, Del, what do you make of this good guy image of the new Pope?
See, Tom, you're asking. Tom, this is why I agree with Tom's. This is why we do shows like this, because this is the Hegelian dialectic, and this is this law of polarity they're using with the energies. And I still agree with what Vince said at the beginning. It's energy, and what they're doing is the Jesuits or the priesthood play both sides to the middle. ISIS is a new part of this, and I'll have to do another show on that, and we'll talk about that. And Tom's right. As I said earlier on, the hand that feeds you, in the same hand stabs you in the back. They have to perceive, and this is what I agree with Tom. What they do is they go out into the world using the telelive vision, telling lies to the vision, programming yet again, and they put out this good image that they're doing this for the people, they're doing that for the people, and they're so great. But at the same time they've got that you're eating off the Pope's plate, and he's put in front of you is the same hand that's stabbing you in the back and taking your blood and draining your soul. And that's because they claim the birthright, and we will touch this at some point through the live record of birth. What's happened is, Tom, there's three trusts, and I need to touch this specifically. One that claims your property, which through the Seta Trust. One that claims your property. One that claims your estate. And the third one is called convocation, and that puts a claim on your soul. Okay? These people are the grim, I'm going to answer this quick, the people are the grim reapers, and that's what's really going on. They're trying to claim the souls here and claim the energy here. And so they need to put a good image, because you send your positive thoughts about the Pope and that positive issue out into the world, then they turn that round, as Tom just said, and they use it and change it round and use it for negative purposes and completely rip the people off on this planet. So I agree with you entirely, Tom. So his image is a falsehood, Tom. Go ahead, Tom.
Just repeat that question for Del, Andy.
Oh, the one from Lee? Yeah, sure. It's way back now. Question for Del, the Pope. Let's see if we can get back to that one. He's right up here. It's not having it. He was basically saying, the Pope, what entity does he believe he worships? And also, can he explain, I'm paraphrasing because I can't get back that far in the chat, the meaning of the bent cross that he carries with him?
Yeah, he mentioned the bent cross.
The broken cross.
Yeah, I'm not too sure about that when I look into that. And I know for a fact as well, there's something, I don't know if this relates to what Lee was saying. Apparently, he's supposed to have took a cross from a dead man. I heard that not so good. That was actually on the internet, where he's supposed to have took a cross from a dead man. The cross, I'm going to talk about the cross itself because it might help Lee. Right, the Maltese cross, basically it's energy. Everything is energy, and I said with Tom and I agree with Tom, everything is energy. It's polarity. There's positive, negative. It's energy. There's only one thing going on. It's either going in a negative form or a positive form. So it's energy. Now, that Maltese cross, alright, if you look at a normal cross, you'll see that the Maltese cross is even in all of its directions. Alright? But if you look at a normal cross, you'll see the polar axis has been pulled up. The reason why the priests would have done that on the normal cross that you see is to represent the carnal nature of man and to lock off the higher consciousness. So the reason why the cross, the pole axis is pulled up there to the top is to get man or humanity or the souls here to think in a carnal nature, in a low vibratory nature, and not in our higher nature as spiritual beings, and have fundamental knowledge throughout the universe that we're part of everything, and we're not just locked off from the universe down here and everything, and the only thing that exists is our physical bodies, and we're only physical, this is all it is, we're the only people in the entire universe, and this is all it's all about. So the cross is used to manipulate the people's energy to keep them locked down. So I hope that answers part of his question there, and then let's go into the next bit that he's gonna, I'll answer for him. Now, basically, the Pope himself, basically is this. I'm gonna talk about it in this fashion. Basically, the priests are here to salvage souls, so they wear the black robe under the millennia called the gala. As the lowest of the priests associated with the Sibyl, the Queen of Mary or the Mother of God, also known as Mary, also known as the Day of Blood, which is signifying them cutting off the genitals, also known as Easter, and thus become voluntary eunuchs. Okay? Hence, celibacy was never applied to the senior ranks of the cults that worship Sibyl, and the origin of the Sibyl Unigale is from the city of from around 1000 BCE, was converted into the largest necropolis the world had ever seen.
How we lost him.
Yes.
Black robes.
Oh, we're back.
We just got there to Del. We just got where to you mentioned the world's largest necropolis the world has ever seen, and you disappeared.
Oh, how interesting it keeps happening. The world had ever seen. The standard clothing of the Galia of was black robes, signifying as the attendants to, and I can't pronounce it, it's a very hard word, Esquigal, the goddess of the underworld. They were regarded as the grim reapers with the power to steal and consume souls. Following year, the next headquarters for the celibate Galia was the great temple of Cybele Hill atop Vatican Hill, which is what I was talking about, the Saturnalia temple, upon the greatest necropolis of Rome in 200 BCE. Hence, the Pontifex Maximus, also known as the Pope, the Roman Pontiff, also known as the highest priest of the Gallia. So basically, to answer his question, which is what he said, was they worship the Esquigoddess Gallia and these the Grim Reaper's doctrine. So it's the cult of Mary and the Baalism cult. So it's under Baalism and the cult of Saturnalia, and they worship the goddess Esquigale, and they're basically the Grim Reapers, and basically that's what the priesthood are under. And they work closely with these, or I keep referring to these reptilian entities who are third and fourth and fifth dimensional, who are some are third dimensional physical, and the fourth and fifth dimensional ones are non-physical, and the very low vibratory beings who feed off the souls here on this planet. And that's why they do the ritual abuse to the souls on this planet and get us to be in a trauma-based position, because the energy we give off, these entities feed off that energy. So I hope that answered this question and gave him a bit of clarity there.
I'm just getting Lee. He's kind of questioning the timescales you've given there, and he's saying that I think it's Imana was knocking about conservatively around 2350 BC.
Yeah, I mean, you've got, I mean, I might not have mentioned that there is, for me, the one, I definitely know that they definitely, definitely under the Saturnalia cult and the Baalism, they're definitely under that, under the Talmud. That's why they have the 10 Commandments, because they're definitely under that. There are other variations of this, and he's just mentioned one of them, but I haven't looked into that as heavily as of yet, so that could be an element of it as well. So I do agree with him, because there's not just one area of these priests, there's multiple areas, as I've already said earlier on, that they're under, but there's not much of one God, because I said these entities that they serve is more than just one entity. So he's probably right in terms of the areas of the other cults that they're involved with, because there's many cults that they are involved with, but the one that I've studied the most, and the one that I know that I can factually prove, is the black robes, because you see him wearing the black regalia, so that one can be proven, and that's why I stick to that one. So I'm not saying he's wrong, I'm saying that probably will be the case. The one the cult that he's mentioned as well, they probably will be under that, it wouldn't surprise me. But the one I definitely know they're using at the moment is the black robes one, the Esquigale one, because they're attending the dead as dead priests, as Grim Reapers. And that you see in the courts to this day, you see the Jesuits wearing black, you see them wearing it, so that can be factually proven. So I'm not disagreeing with him, I'm saying that will probably be what he's just mentioned, that will be that as well. It wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks for that, Dal. And I just want to say to Lee, that link you passed on for that book for, I think it was for Rob, I've copied that over to the Skype room, so they'll get that one, Lee. Thanks very much there, mate.
Terry, thanks for the question as well. It was a good point to mention because I mean, you could go back even further, but I'd have to go back galactically, and that would just be taking forever. But he is right. There's many stuff that they're under, but I definitely know that the black robe stuff is definitely correct because you see them wearing that regalia today. That's why I found that out by doing this research. So I'll put him on that. That's where my answer is that they're just based on what they're doing right now in terms of what they wear and the rituals that they do. So Terry, thanks for that question, but it was a good point that he mentioned.
Excellent. Well, put out some fascinating information tonight, you guys, but we're down into the last 3 or 4 minutes of the show because we usually play a tune on the way out. So is there anything you'd like to either pass over links or give any specific information before we have to wrap it up for tonight, guys?
My thing is, the priests are using magic. My thing is, turn the telelive vision off. Do some due diligence. So we've talked about a couple of elements of that tonight, and I'll pass on there some links, and you can go look at it yourself. It's all madness. It's all an illusion. It's all a falsehood. Ignore it. Whatever they do, they need your consent. They need us to agree to it. And if we don't agree to it, they can't do anything. So use your free dominion, send love into the world, and don't get caught up in the madness when the Pope announces some madness over the next few days, when he comes back on his blood moon tetrad and says that he's in charge of the earth and is an authority, when we all know it's not. It's all a falsehood and an illusion.
Yep, I agree with that. My message, stand in truth, do what's right, follow your heart, and don't give in to fear. Do what's right every single time. Stay honourable, and incredible things will happen for you.
Yes.
Thanks, Rob. Thanks, Del. Been brilliant to get you on tonight, and especially Rob, who we haven't heard from for so long. And also Tom, great of you to be with us tonight. Have you got anything you'd like to say before we close?
Just if you want to touch on a couple of things that people might see in the future that might prove some of the points that you talked about tonight, Del. So obviously some people are going to be skeptical, some people are going to support everything that you say, but that was one thing that you wanted to highlight, things that may be coming up.
Yeah. A good point, Tom. You've been on Spawn tonight with those kind of questions. The only thing I will say is this: look at the special drawing rights. I think it's SDRs, special drawing rights. Look into the BRICS countries and the new currency that they're trying to bring in this new world order system. So basically, that's on a 5/5 frequency. So, but it is the priests who are taking out the old monetary system. Under the SWIFT system, and the BRICS system is the one they want to bring in, which is based going to be backed by gold and silver. So if anybody's interested, look into what's called SDR, special drawing rights. That's the new system they want to try and bring in, this BRICS system, and that's something that's definite. If they bring that in, they're going to have to change the old system, and they'll have to do that by what's called a global currency reset. And just type that in on Google, basic research, global currency reset. And anybody's interested in that particular area, I just referenced Karen Hudis and the World's Collateral Accounts, where all the gold is in the Philippines and in Switzerland. And just look into some of the work that she's done, and she's worked at the World Bank, so she knows the corruption that's also going on. So you will see the SDRs and the global currency reset mentioning, and you may have some kind of ritualistic event where something negative may go down in terms of, I would say, some kind of war, or something that will set off war. And I'm not saying it might happen in a few days, or it may happen in something may happen in the next couple of weeks based on whatever happens when the Pope gets back. So something negative will come, but don't see it as negative. Don't let it confuse you. Don't get you caught up in the energies in it. Just ignore it. Whatever they're doing, they're trying to get you to agree to it so it comes into reality. So don't agree to it. But definitely the SDRs and the global currency reset people definitely look into that, because that's something that they're definitely working on at the moment. Thanks for that question, Tom.
Thank you very much, Del. And the last thing from me, please check out our Facebook page. It's Enemy Within Radio, all one word. If you're searching, it's best to search enemy_within, and it's at Enemy Within Talk on Twitter. So I'll let Andy take the show out.
Thanks everyone for joining us tonight, and thanks especially to Rob and Del. And I'd just like to say a quick thank you to Fragz and Anita, who've been wonderful hosts, and provided me with the best burger I've ever tasted in my life last night. And we'll be back Friday at the usual time with we're on a roll with these guests, with Colin Johnson of East Coast Resistance and Chrissy Morris. So, night, folks. We'll catch you on Friday.
See you later, folks.
Right.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to part 2 of the Not Graham Hart show. As you've probably heard, Graham's not that well tonight, but we've got part 2 of Enemy Within. We're going to be continuing. We've got Rob Freeman, we've got Dale back, we've got Fragz, and we've got Andy Young back again. So, welcome back. I hope you're all full up and ready to go with a bit more. We was having a little interesting chat there. Looks like we're going to find a nice little path to get on with. Hi, everyone.
Good evening.
Hi, mate.
Hi, everyone.
Hey up, everybody.
Right, we was just talking about something that came up earlier with the notice that God blimey, I've forgotten his name again already. What was his name? Fritz.
Yeah,
Fritz put up on his motor car, and I don't think we got to the bottom of whether there's actually a template of that for people to download, and maybe you've got some ideas of what they might want to write on it for themselves if they want to print one off or just write it. I believe handwriting's actually better in this sort of cases than typing, is it not? Or does it not make any difference?
Yeah, that's interesting. I'm glad you brought that up. And then I'll let Rob speak because he's good on this as I am as well. Now, the key thing about these so-called public servants is there's a presumption of a contract, and they're presuming that they've got the authority, which they don't have because they're pseudo, they're private, they're not actually public. We won't get into that yet. It's their presumption that they've got a contract with you, and therefore you've got some obligation to them, and therefore you're subordinate yourself to them. The thing about the notice that he'll have put on his car is it gives them notice that the property A will not be theirs, and B, that is not liable to anything. So it's letting them know who's actually the authority and that they're not an authority. That's the thing about the notice itself fundamentally. Now, any property, really, I'll be honest with you, and Rob will be really is worth putting into what's called trust. Basically, just put it into trust. And the issue is with contracts create what's called obligation. An obligation is a liability. So what I really get people to urge people to look into is trust law. We're looking to put in the property, the car, into trust for your beneficial use, and so the beneficiary always benefits. And what you need to do is then deregister the car or the license plate. Give the license. It's lying to your senses. A license. Give that contract back to Caesar, because that's what allows Caesar to be put you under an obligation. Send that back off to Caesar. Give him notice that you're putting into a trust, and then put the private plates on it. Put your own notices on it, and then just run your thing on the private side anyway, and but put yourself under any obligations. So any notices that is getting put out there is that you need to inform the correct people regarding what Fritz's notice is done. Whatever you do is you need to inform those people who need to be informed. Once they're informed and given notice, then from them onwards you then carry out the intent with using notice. So that's what I would say to begin with, and that's my opening little salvo. Let Rob go ahead and smash it up.
Yeah, I can't remember what Fritz what I actually put in the chat room because I only just gone. I don't know if anybody could anybody find it and actually repost it back again, because I know notification is really, really important. It's one of the first things I learned all those years ago. I'm just interested in if somebody could find that and put it in so I know exactly what it was. But uniquely in the chat room there's just put trust law is still legal, and I think it's interesting what Lee's put there, because trust law can be legal, but there's a big difference between public law and private law. Correct. You can actually create your own private law. In fact, private law is personal to yourself, for want of a better phrase. And so you can create a trust which is a private trust. We've done it. In fact, 3 of us used to run cars that I realised after getting locked up so many times how the system worked with vehicles. And I've not had a car now for 2 years, but my 2 mates that I did it with me, they're still running their cars that have been placed into family trusts. And what I learnt from many times getting locked up, and I've only ever been locked up over vehicles, nothing else, is I think probably the fourth time I got locked up for 3 days because I wouldn't acquiesce to being this legal name that they wanted. So they just took me in the slammer for 3 days. But the good thing about it is one of the coppers. I mean, I had to get locked up for 3 days just to get one phrase off a copper, and the phrase was, "Your vehicle's coming up as unregistered." And then I thought, fucking hell, that's it. You can't deregister a vehicle, but you can unregister. And so from that point on, I developed an idea how to unregister a vehicle and place it into a family trust. And like I say, my two friends, as far as I know, I've lost a bit of touch with them now, but they're still running about in cars that are in a private trust, private family trust, and they're not having any problems whatsoever.
Thanks, Rob. It's not deregistered, yeah, it is unregistered. And I've got a friend that's done the same thing as well, Rob, and he successfully did that. And he had his own private plates on it. But I think it was Lee that made a comment, and public and private. You've got the trust law in terms of public law, and Lee's right in terms of legalities is under that SESTQ trust. I'm not on about that. I was on about the private creating your own trust, because once it's private and you give it, and that's why I talked about Fritz's notice, because when you're giving them notice, that's private. All contract law is private. That's why I say there is not actually public. It's all private. This government that's running at the moment is not actually public. It's actually private due to the Treaty of Rhone. That's why they have to contract with you, because contract law is private. Because the crown that the Queen has, or it's not the Queen's, the Pope's got it, was taken from this country in 1213. And so we don't actually have any common law, public law. It's actually private law. That's why you've always got these licenses, which are contracts, and that's private. So when you're creating your own private trust, from a point of dominion, is that you create the original title, because all they're doing is splitting the title to legal and equitable one, and they give us the legal one, and they give us the equitable one through the SESTQ trust. What I'm talking about is completely private. You have the dominion title, which is the highest claim on all the property. You keep that title to yourself and put them on notice. You've got that title, and therefore they try to claim it. They have to use custody, which is a law form in property law, which means they can put a claim in on it, but they can't claim the property, because your title will always trump their title in property law and trust law, and that means that when they come to claim that property under custody, you claim dominion of that property, and yours trumps their claim on their end, because you have the highest claim, and therefore you beat their claim, so therefore they can never take your property from you. So I'm with Rob, it's all private side. You should be on the private side entirely and put your stuff into trust and give them notice of that trust, but you keep the original titles of that trust to yourself, and then if they challenge you, you can use that in any court against them. I wouldn't go into one of their courts personally, but you can challenge them using the highest claim, and that will beat them, because the priests, it's all about honour and dishonour, and the judges who sit on the benches are actually priests, and so the only way you can defeat a priest is under the 10 Commandments, because that's what is under the Noahide law and the canon law, which is ecclesiastical. And the only way you can defeat them is thou shalt not bear false witness, commandment number 9. And it's all about honour and dishonour. So if you've got the highest title and use that in honour, you can beat the priests. And they know this, so that's why they need you contracting with them to put yourself under their jurisdiction. If you don't do that and you would claim the highest claim using dominion, you can defeat the priests, period. Do you want to just bring on that, Rob? Because I know you want to say something. Just can add on to that, please, Rob.
Yeah, I'm just going to say, just looking at the comments in the chat room, just for all the listeners here, and this is only my opinion, but I have done a lot of work on this. All law is bollocks, absolutely. People talk about legal system, which we know, but even common law, there is no law. There's actually no law other than natural law. So people talk about don't cause harm, loss, or injury. Well, injury is a form of harm, so that does come into it. Loss is a form of harm. So there's really one natural law that you have to abide by, and it's don't cause harm. It's really that simple. It couldn't be any more simpler. Now, trust law, commercial law, contract law, legislation, whatever you want to call it, it's all bollocks. And the reason it's all bollocks is any law, anything, has to be created by man if it's not natural. And so any law, all it is interpretation of words. That's it. That's all any law is. And there's hundreds of laws. You could list stacks, and all these stupid lawyers are experts in all the different, like, property law and this law. But when you really break it down, and what I'm quite good at is breaking things down to its simplest elements, is that all law is just interpretation of words. It can't be anything else. And the reason we don't win in court is that I went into a court case where for driving offences, And the fourth charge was driving whilst disqualified, which they wanted to give me 6 months. And to help everybody and help my friends, I decided to go down their route to see if I could beat them. It was a bit of a fucking stupid gamble, to be honest, because if they'd gone wrong, I would have got 6 months prison, but I was willing to do it, to help people and show what could be done. In the end, I beat all 4 charges, but they still found me guilty. Luckily, they didn't find me, take any action or anything, or lock me up, but I had to have my wits about me. And the reason what I realised is that because law is interpretation of words, we can never beat them, because whatever we say, they interpret it differently, and they can interpret it differently. And so what it is that's why you get lawyers arguing. Everybody's interpreting it in their own way. Driving whilst disqualified, I proved from their law dictionaries, and this is in magistrates' courts, and I had a Crown Prosecution Service barrister, and he said, you're driving whilst disqualified. And I said, well, will you define disqualified for me? He said, well, it means you can't drive. I said, does it? He went, yeah. I said, well, he says, everyone knows that. I said, well, you can speak for everyone, can you? I said, what definition of disqualified are you using? And he said, well, it means you can't drive. And I got their law dictionaries out in front of the magistrates and showed it them, and it said, disqualify to make ineligible, unable to serve in office. I said, you're telling me that I can't serve in office, that's what you're disqualifying me from. I'd already sent my licence back years ago. I said, that's why I fucking sent my licence back, because I don't want to serve in office and work for you. And so everybody started clapping in the public gallery. Anyway, when they retired and came back, they said, what did they say? That definition that I gave is without merit. That's what the magistrate said and found me guilty. And what they were really saying to me is, we're going to interpret it differently. And so that's what all law is. So there is that's why law's not fixed, because somebody else can put a different interpretation on it. And that's why lawyers drag it on forever and argue. They're brilliant at coming up with arguments. And all it is because they're interpreting the words differently.
Makes a lot of sense, that.
Yeah, we've got a question here. Just want to throw this out.
Okay, mate.
I've been picking up a bit of late about how the courts are changing. A lot of judges apparently are walking out, in a sense they don't like the changes being happening. One of those changes is along the lines of how people are being more forced now than coerced into pleading guilty, because the charges, for example, as it's been reported, are easier. Obviously they're closing a lot of courts down as well in areas that's on the books, and obviously I'm guessing that's going to be an automated system, because I got a letter which I totally ignored and I've heard not back from them for a long time, from Northampton Justice Centre it's called. It's not a court. Yeah, so I mean I've kind of looked a little bit into how the EU are trampling over everything for the Fortress Europe thing as well. So really what I'm kind of putting out here is, have you guys, obviously because you've got a lot more experience than me anyway, it's not my strong point, the law and everything. I mean, have you guys seen any changes, how this is slowly being incorporated, your keyword incorporated as well, into society, obviously under our noses, as everything else, or gradual, I don't know, have you guys seen anything like that?
I'll let Rob go in a sec. Gordon Brown signed the Lisbon Treaty. You're right about Europe. You're absolutely spot on, mate. You've nailed that one on there. Northampton. Everybody's getting. Is it breaking up, and is it being a bit funny?
No,
can you hear me?
A minute, right?
All right, that's fine. No, he's right in what he's saying. Northampton. I mean, there's so many. He's mentioned the Northampton Mags Court. Is it Northampton Magistrates Court? If it's not Northampton Bulk Centre. I mean, you get these. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. I mean, they're just sending out random letters. You are right. It's becoming all. Basically they're sending out contracts claiming to be so-called authorities, and when they send out these contracts, whether it's Bulk Centre, Mags Court, I don't know what entity it is, whatever it is they're deciding they want to use this week, next week, the week after, or today, because they keep changing it anyway, whichever corporate fiction they're using. Now the EU stuff, which is right, with when Brown signed the Lisbon Treaty, it even goes back further than that to the Maastricht Treaty and others, the previous so-called ministers have signed, that basically it means that Europe essentially is being using its EU Tower of Babel over there in Brussels, that I refer to it as, and all the stuff you're getting from Europe is now coming over here So you are right, this stuff from Europe is coming here, and they're using that system over here, but it's just the Holy Roman Empire. That's all they're doing. The priesthood, they're just running it from Rome. So it's taking all the little corporations out and putting it under one big corporation. That's what they're doing. They're trampling the small ones underfoot and putting the big one out there. So it's easier to use it from Brussels and just get the stuff from Brussels coming in, and that's what's being enforced over here at the moment. So you are right about that. So it has been coming through the treaties that they've been the signing and agreeing to, and that's been rammed down the throats of the people over here. So I agree with you completely, and therefore it's all being centralised into one central computer, and all they're doing is these bulk centres, which you just referred to, have like Motorfountain, Mags Court, or Magistrates Court, or bulk centre, or whatever you want to call it, sending out these so-called fines, and then claiming their authority. People are agreeing to these contracts, sending it and signing it, and then consenting to it, admitting the jurisdiction of it, and then putting themselves under bondage, under surety, under the surname, under the mister, and then agreeing to all these contracts, and then they're using the sweat equity or energy, and then they're passing they're just making all the money off. But that's all part of programming. But I agree with you completely. It's definitely come from Europe, but it's just the Holy Roman Empire, just under the guise of Brussels. But go ahead, Rob.
Yeah, just to add to that, I think you made the point about pleading guilty, and that's a buy-off. That's a sellout, isn't it? Yeah. That's what they said to me for just short of 6 months. If you don't plead guilty now, we're going to lock you up. We're going to lock you up, and that's what they're offering. They're offering if you plead guilty and pay a fine, you're not going to get the full sentence. And I only think it's just bribing you off, innit? It's just going for the payoff. The point to it is, if you haven't caused harm, then stand fast like I did. Against all odds, they found me guilty on 4 charges and still never took any action because they knew they couldn't. And that's the point to it, is don't go for the easy payoff. But there's just some questions being posted here. Uniquely, has Rob ever claimed demurrer? No, I haven't. I think that's an objection, isn't it? It's an objection to a pleading. Correct me if I'm wrong, Lee. Now, I've never actually, even though I've set foot in their courts, most of the time I went to court was over a gas. They were trying to fit me a gas meter in, a prepayment meter. And this is when I very first started learning stuff. And I was really looking at the unique opportunity to, I had a really old gas meter, and I ran a bill up for 3,600 because I couldn't afford it, and I kept it on all the time. My mate was a gas fitter, says, Rob, it was really close to the ground, to the floor, and I had some wooden flooring. And he said, even if they get a warrant of entry, they can't fit you a prepay meter. And so I thought, well, brilliant. And so 5 or 6 times I went to court just to learn how it all works, knowing, and I had a real laugh doing it, and took a couple of my mates, and we were laughing and all sorts.
I remember doing that as well in Sheffield a couple of years ago, Rob, yeah.
So that again?
I remember you bringing that up a couple of years ago when you done a talk in Sheffield.
Yeah, and what it did is it gave me a unique opportunity to go in court relaxed, say my stuff, and know that even if they beat me, so to speak, a warrant of entry, they could come in, and I know they couldn't fit it anyway. So it really gave me a great insight, and I strung it out for ages. It went on for about 2 years. I went to court 6 times over it. So yeah, just to answer Unique Lee's question, no, I've not bothered claiming demurrer. I don't claim anything. I won't be the legal fiction name. I will not be that name, and nobody can pin it on me. And because I refuse to have it pinned on me, then there is no obligation. As long as I've not hurt anyone, caused harm to anyone, that's why no one can take any action. It's illegal to have a legal name. It's actually illegal to have a legal name. I think Del said earlier, thou shalt not bear false witness, and that's exactly what you're doing. Somebody in the chat room has also, I've missed it now, I think it's Lee again, said all courts are presumption and assumption, and that's exactly what's going on. Do you remember those old American cop movies in the 80s? They'd pull somebody over and say, assume the position, and they'd face the car and they'd pat them down. Well, what's happening is they're making a presumption, and if we're taking it on, we're assuming the position, we're making the assumption, we're being what they want us to be, we're being the legal entity, we're representing it, or saying it's us. And it goes back to that squaring again. They've stuck us into a box then. So whatever you will not accept the legal name, they cannot take any action on you whatsoever, as long as you've not caused harm to anyone. Now, I would recommend that nobody ever sets foot in one of those court, church, stroke satanic places at all. The only time to go is if you've been kidnapped by those uniform gangs and dragged there. Obviously, you've got no choice. And if you really want to hold on to your house and there's a repossession happening, those are the only two occasions that I would say to actually set foot in any court.
Yeah, the Masonic messengers, I call them, the police.
Yeah,
absolutely.
pretend lodge, I agree. The top end of most of your chief cons are in the lodge. They're all high level Freemasons. I agree with what he's just said. Absolutely. Demure is an interesting one. Yeah, you can use the. I'm very familiar with Demure. It's a Latin term, and it halts the priests from doing any action until the proper way can be dealt with, until whatever it is you want to get done can be sorted out. That's what I looked into a while ago. It's one that that people potentially could use. To be honest with you, I just don't plead. I'm like Rob, just don't no contract, no obligation. Just don't contract with it. It kills them stone dead. But if if you have some sort of obligation that's already on you, then demure is one that because obviously they say they only give you the option of plead guilty or not guilty. Latin in guild means money. Basically, what they're doing with the Sestacue Trust is it's sweat equity. They're getting you to stand as surety under your sure name, like Rob says, being a legal fiction, and they call you a mister, which is a non-de-gear, which means you're at war. And the priest is using what's called penance. It's absolution of sin. It's self-ignorant nonsense. It's just sin. And all they're doing is putting you through that court to access bonds and create credit. And the priests are creating credit off your estate and generating monies, and everybody's getting paid through the Crown Temple in London, and they're all getting paid off your estate. And that because you're bearing false witness, the priest pronounces judgment or penance, and he absolution and grants you away from your sins. You just don't know the truth, like Rob was saying. So as long as you're not the legal fiction, and you won't stand as surety, and you've caused no harm, and you've got no contractual obligation, and there's a presumption of authority that they presume that they've got, as long as you know they don't have that, you've got no obligation, so they've got no standing at law. But I'd never go into one of those places. I would just refuse to go there. Unless you're dragged there deliberately by the so-called pseudo-public servants, meaning police, then basically I'd just refuse to be the legal fiction. Just don't contract. No contract, no obligation. They can't do anything. That's why they always want you to plead. Just don't do it. Everything they tell you not to do, you just don't do. No matter how they try to force you, just don't do it. I just refuse point blank. And never ever be there on your own. You should never be in priest's municipal Roman venue on your own. If you ever have to go, please just take witnesses with you, and then they write statements proving you didn't bear false witness on yourself, and then basically you need to be indicting these other idiots who try to force you into a false jurisdiction. But it's gone beyond the joke now. It's just ridiculous. But I stop there.
There's a friend of mine there, Andy had him on Enemy Within a couple of weeks back. He went through a lot of the court process. Jason is called. He ended up in court regarding gas. He owed money to British Gas, and he got to the point of in and out of court a few times. They'd come, they'd done his locks. He pissed them off at that stage, and then obviously. And the next stage to that was what he recorded on video, and it's all there. And they basically the police just came right through his door with the big red key and everything. And basically he's now in that position of, I've done everything, I've gone through the courts, I've won them. But then this is a question I always get, more so with stuff I've not really clued up with, which this really being one of them. He kind of ended up in a position where he could not enforce the judgment of the judge, which is basically he could bill British Gas for all his troubles. And that's where I always think, now how do we enforce it? I mean, I think that's really the biggest question, and I suppose it's not really easy to answer.
Oh, I love that. Brilliant point you've made there. Absolutely fantastic point. This is why I said no contract, no obligation. Yeah. You shouldn't be even contracting with. That's why I say, because the beast is wicked. I agree with what the man just said. The beast is wicked. Now, I'll give you an example, right? The Earth, the Terra planet, the third dimensional, provides everything for free. Your fruit's free, the plants are free, everything comes for free. Why is everybody paying for everything? Everything comes for free. Nobody, the earth should be the richest thing, the richest being on this planet, because it should be clear. If the earth went if anything, if the earth went to Caesar and says, "Look, you got to pay me my cut," Caesar will be bankrupt tomorrow, because the earth provides us with everything we need. So if we're paying for stuff we shouldn't be paying for, even if I'd assume the Jason's used the Local Government Act of 1888 and the Bill of Exchange, and he's quite correct. The council should be taking our liabilities for council tax. We know it all. It's not been repealed. These people are absolutely corrupt. I completely agree with you. They're getting police, Masonic police involved, running into people's houses, beating people up, throwing them in jail. I completely agree with that. Absolutely. The pseudo so-called public servants are absolutely out of control. I absolutely agree with you. And so he does want to try and enforce something on them. And basically, you have to go back into Caesar's system and apply for a liability order and anything. And the priests are in the same beds together, in the same beds with the police. And so they're just all colluding together. So it's absolutely corrupt. So I agree with you. So the best thing I've been doing, and I agree with Rob, no contract. Just not even dealing with Caesar at all whatsoever. Just staying away from Italy.
You've got a take on it, really. Whereas, as you say, how do you enforce it? Well, they've got their enforcement officers, be it the police,
yes,
bailiffs, be it the judges. So how would, say, me, member of the public, enforce that? Well, I've not got those assets either of enforcement. But then again, I'm going to the same place. Now, I'm a layman to this in a big way. So, I probably speak for a lot of people out there who've not done as much work as, say, you guys, I mean, I'm thinking, how do I enforce this? Then I've got to go back into that court and ask that judge then, basically, who has already caused me this trouble in the first place by being on that side of the law, like corporate or whatever. So I then have to go to that judge and ask him, can he get his enforcement officer to take my side? I'm just thinking very simple on this. Because if everybody kind of had, took the time out, we're talking a good few years at least, really, to know all this, because they're not going to hold your arms through the system, are they? These idiots. So I mean, I do sense that with a lot of people, they might not be attempting this. I mean, I'm not a coward personally. I mean, it's just not the strong point. So I mean, if everyone wants to go to the courts, well, we'll be turning the system inside out for the best. You're reversing everything, aren't you? But how do we get to that point? I mean, a lot of people just think, oh, well, we've got to have a revolution. Things like that. Well, you're not just revolving everything to end up to start again, really, the way the word sounds to me. I mean, it's just difficult for a lot of people to wake up, which, we a lot of people talk about.
Yeah, I agree with you what you're saying, and you are right, because you can't go to a priest who sat on the bench, who's caused you harm, knows he's caused you harm, and then is in a position of power where I've got a friend, right? We go to these courts and we kill them in there, and they start throwing us out because they can't deal with us. First we ask them if it's probably called private, because we already know it's private, and we just go through. We ask them if they've got the rope and the bond insurance, and as soon as we get to that question, they start screaming cause security. They don't want us in there because we know straight. Because at the end of the day, we know straight away that once we get the bonds are liable, and we can go after them privately, go for their bonds, because that's the only way you can deal with them, because these priests, as the guys just correctly said, there's a conflict of interest. You can't go to the same hand and complain about the same hand when the same hand's the one that dealt you the blows in the first place. Yep. There's so much conflict of interest, it's unreal, it's ridiculous. So this is going to be a numbers game. It's about the people waking up and deciding to create their own common law courts, not dealing with the private pseudo public servants, and doing it our own way, and dealing with each other. We've got to start putting our energies into each other and render unto Caesar what is Caesar's, leave Caesar alone, and start doing our own thing and protecting each other, because this system's rife with corruption. I agree with what the guy's saying. I agree with it completely.
Could we set up our own enforcement agency ourselves? Could we set up a bailiff?
We'd have to. That's the route you're going to have to go down, as common law courts, and as doing it itself. Because we can't go into their system, because it's rigged. I agree with you through the Crown Temple. It's completely rigged. It's a complete farce and a complete corruption. And when you go in there, you're giving the energy to it that's allowing the beast to keep feeding. I want Rob to kind of get in on this and see.
Yeah, I'm just going to chip in there. Nice one, Del. Yeah, and I think once again someone's posted in the chat room. We've got to remember that the whole thing's not about law; it's ecclesiastical. That's the whole thing. That's what it's based on. I would say never use their system at all, but I'm actually, and I can't really talk about it tonight, and I'm going to come on Tom and Andy's show sometime in a few weeks' time, and I'm involved in a high court case at the moment, and we're the claimant, we're bringing the claim, and it's been a real epic journey for. I've been doing this now for 3 years, this one case, and we're encountering all sorts of obstacles. But the reason I'm doing it is the person I'm helping is close to me anyway, and they've kind of suffered a little bit, and we want them to get some sort of compensation back. But from working on this, it's opened up so many avenues, and I've become enlightened so much. And I can't really say it now because we've actually won the case on paper, but we've not got the official paperwork through. And this is what I want to come back and talk to in the future. But just to give you a hint, and this is how this is High Court, right? So all the lower courts, the magistrates' courts, and the Crown Court, basically. Not the Crown Court, the County Court and the Magistrates' Court are lower courts. They're the lower courts. Okay, so this is in High Court, this is Royal Courts of Justice. Now, they're all bullshit, they're all churches, and they're all fucking corrupt. But the point to it is, we're bringing this claim to see what we can do. And the reason we've unofficially won, and we're just waiting for the paperwork, is something called tort, that I'm not sure our listeners are that familiar with, T-O-R-T. Now, tort is what we're claiming. Now, tort, now you've got legislation which we know is statutes and acts of parliament, which are basically they're acts, aren't they? You're not hurting anyone. They're not really crimes, are they? You're just breaching rules, basically, government rules. And then you've got crime where somebody is harmed. Well, tort, for those that don't know, T-O-R-T, and this is a whole body of law that never gets spoken about. And I've done lots and lots of research on this. This is what we're using. Tort is where you've caused harm to somebody, but it may not have been intentional. So it has a through negligence aspect to it. So, for instance, as an analogy, imagine I've got a barbecue in my garden. There's a bit of a party going on, and we've all had a few drinks, and I decide to show off, and I start swinging a shovel around, for instance, and showing off. If I accidentally hit someone at the back of the head, and they're in a bad way, there's no legislation that says I can't swing a shovel around in my garden, so we can forget that legislation. Is it a crime? Have I actually intended to smash that person over the head with that shovel? Well, I've not, have I? So where does that leave us? Somebody's been harmed, and I didn't mean to, it's my fault. So there has to be a facility within what we perceive as law so that they can be compensated, and this is where tort comes in. Tort is negligence. I ought to have known better that in a crowded area in my garden, me swinging a shovel around, there's a good chance that somebody's going to get hurt. And so what happens is, the sole punishment for tort is purely compensation, monetary compensation. And so what we need to be doing with all these public servants and these people that are pretending to serve us and really are making us serve them, and this includes the magistrates and all these public officials, whatever you want to call them, is the way to do it is, it's very, very difficult to prove a crime. A crime has to be proved beyond a reasonable doubt, and these lawyers are really expert at creating a reasonable doubt. But tort doesn't have to be proved. All it has to be is on the balance of probabilities. You have to get 51% out of 100 on the balance of probabilities, and you win your case. So this is why we're approaching what happened to this person I'm helping. So we're going in tort. Now these people won't get locked up, but they will have to pay a lot of money out, and it could financially break most of them. So we're going for tort, and this is why, and tort deals with equity as well. This is why we've gone to High Court. So I can't talk about it now because I don't want to, or I shouldn't really be talking about it because I don't want to fuck it up. But just to let you know that tort is a massive thing. The other thing, and excuse me, and this is overlooked, and this is what I'm going to be talking about if you do invite me back, Andy and Tom, is something to do with health and safety. Now everyone thinks, and I don't want to say too much about it, everybody thinks health and safety comes under the law. Well, I can tell you now, it's a fantastic weapon, and what I'm going to tell you is the biggest lie, and the way they've done it is health and safety does not come under the law. Believe it or not, and I know people are going to listen to this and think you're a dickhead, Rob. Believe it or not, health and safety comes above the law, because we said earlier, and I think Lee agreed with me in the chat room, that everything, this system, it's not unique, it's not original, it's a complete copy. Am I still on area? Okay.
Yeah, just muted our mic because there was a great big plane going over.
Oh, okay, sorry, I thought I disconnected. The great deception, the great big lie, is health and safety, and I'll tell you why. Because this system is it's not original, it's not unique, and like I said, Lee agreed with me earlier. All it is a counterfeit, a synthetic copy of a naturally occurring system. So, and I'll prove this when I come back, when we get the result. Health and safety is not above the law. Health and safety is the most fundamental thing there is, because why? Because it mirrors natural law. And remember I said there's only one law, and what is it? Natural law, do no harm to another. And that includes injury and loss. And what they've done is, they've superimposed something called health and safety. It's just mirroring do no harm, and they've slotted it under law, so that we think it's a part of law. And everybody that's used health and safety so far is using it as part of the law. And what we're doing, using tort, using motu proprio from Superimpositive Francis, and using health and safety, not calling it health and safety, we call it health and safety, but we've been emphasising the fact that it's mirroring natural law of do no harm. Now, you put those three things together, and you've got really powerful tools here. And so don't let people kid you that health and safety is something that's a side effect or something under the law. Health and safety is everything. And what happens is, I'll tell you why it's important, and I'll quickly, because I seem to be hogging the airtime here. Health and safety is the most important thing because it's mirroring do no harm. And what it is, right, I don't want to give too much away, but I found a way where if any corporation approaches you for any reason, under any circumstances, now remember everything's a corporation, police, courts, bailiffs, BT, fucking Sky, or whatever they are, banks, any corporation that approaches you, contacts you, makes communication, use the laws of correspondence, makes contact with you in any way, demanding something, health and safety comes into it of do no harm. And what you can do is, and this is what we're doing, and I want to show you the results when it happens, is you can tell the people that you're now feeling at a risk of being harmed. That's it. That's all you can say to them. And you can notify them, or you can tell them on the phone or verbally. You tell them that you're now put in a position, a potential position of being at the risk of harm, and you can instruct them to go away and make what's called a risk assessment. And now they've got to go away but you have to tell them. That's where we've been going wrong. You tell them to go away and come back with a risk assessment. And what they've got to do is they've got to go away and reevaluate. But now, health and safety and well-being, it's called. Now, it can be physical health and safety. It can be mental health and safety. It can be financial health and safety, commercial, if you run a business, spiritual. It's health and safety because it's do no harm. They have to come back now with a risk assessment, but it comes in two stages. Not only have they got to provide a risk assessment, they've also got to show something called a RAMS, which is a risk assessment method statement. So they've got to come back with a risk. They've got to reassess the risk because you've informed them that there's a potential risk of harm, which opens them up to tort, you see. This is what I'm saying. So now they've got to come back with a risk assessment. They've also got to show how they arrived at that risk assessment. And that's what's called a RAMS, a risk assessment method statement, backing it up. Now, all that taken into consideration, motu proprio, for those that don't know, issued by, and I know Del can tell you about this, Superimpositive Francis at the moment, is basically a risk assessment. Believe it or not, everything can be broken down into a risk assessment. And that's what motu proprio is. Motu proprio is telling all officers, anybody holding an office, anybody working for a corporation, anybody, anywhere, that if they work outside their scope of office, they no longer have got indemnity insurance to be protected. If they're working if they're working outside the scope of office and or causing harm to a man or woman, they open themselves up to a private prosecution. Now this is massive because this is a risk assessment. That's the CEO of the largest corporation in the world, the Pope, telling all the other officers in every other corporation, you're on your own, mate, now, because you can't be insured for doing something that's wrong. Tort can be done by accident. For instance, if you're driving your car and somebody just runs out and you can't stop, you've committed a tort, but it wasn't your fault, and that's where the entity called insurance comes in. So if it's basically, if you're committing harm, which is a tort, through negligence, not through an accident, because insurance takes care of that, If you commit a tort through your negligence, the Pope's no longer insuring people of officers, so what we can now do, thanks to motor proprio in 2013, is demand to see a risk assessment by identifying they've placed you in a position of risk, a potential position of risk, and they have to go away and reassess the situation. And if they come back, you can keep negotiating and be left alone. Anyway, sorry, I yield the floor there, I'm sorry about that. Went on a bit too long there.
Just going back to what you say there, it kind of come into my mind as just saying with tort and probability, because we're seeing a lot of this thought crime these days, aren't we?
Yeah.
My mind was kind of drifting towards thought crime, tort and probability when it comes to crimes. I mean, I've got a couple of screwdrivers in the car. That's because the radio's a bit crap, if you like, okay, as an example. So obviously I could get done for the old go and equip charge, or I could say to them blah blah blah. So their judgment.
You can't get done for it, mate.
That's what I'm saying. But I mean that might really be a silly example, but no.
You can't. Listen, all crimes, for something to be a crime, it has to have three elements in it. Otherwise, it's not a crime. It has to have. I think it's actus reus, which is the act of doing it. Mens rea, which is the guilty mind, the intent of doing it, and an injured party. Any one of those three things. Yeah, that's it, corpus delicti. Any of those three elements missing, it's not a crime. Thus, you've not caused harm to anyone. Any of those three elements are missing, you've not committed a crime. Again, if somebody does get injured, it's either through negligence or an accident. So you cannot get convicted. You can't even get charged. Not for a crime unless all three of those elements have got to be in place. This is why, if we try and take these public servants through fraud, for instance, proving a crime is very, very difficult because those three elements have got to be in place, and you've got to prove beyond a reasonable doubt. So you can't get done for that. And thus, if it's not a crime, as long as you've not caused a living soul harm, then you can't get in trouble at all.
Interesting. No, really interesting. I'm just because there's a new legislation, and I think there's some more happening now regarding the Cameron and the pig incident thing. We're all looking at that, where you've got your domestic terrorism thing going on, things you say on the internet, and people are getting arrested. And I've heard people got charged for pathetic stuff, totally illegal stuff, from using the right phrase. So I'm just thinking what protections you'd have at that, because they're changing the law. I mean. They're just walking jack boots are right over it into the ground, aren't they? You see, don't have to blame here, lads, to be gentle on me.
No, you're right. No, you're right. I agree with what Rob was saying, and this is what we've been finding out. I was speaking to Rob about this, because when we've been going into their courts asking for the judge's bond, because we know he's liable, he's been throwing us out the court. This is what we're saying, because they can't be insured, because we knew we're appropriate, and we've been using this stuff, and all that happens when we go to the court, we demand their oaths and their bonds, they run off the bench. Because they know that they're liable, they can't behave the way they used to do. They don't ram rail. A lot of people go to these so-called municipal Roman venues and get mashed up by the priesthood. But what we're seeing is once we ask them public or private and go for the bonds and ask for the oath, these people don't want to know, because every time your paperwork must precede you. So every time we go in there, we put paperwork in advance and we demand certain things from the so-called authority. Turns out they're not an authority at all, and like you just say, it's all an illusion. So the best we can do in terms of...
Sounds like we lost you. Lost Del. Anybody else left?
Has he gone again? I'm still here.
Nice one. Where was we going with that?
I'm not sure where he was going with that.
Yeah.
It's off again, yeah.
Okay.
Perhaps you'd like to talk about what you were talking about just before we came on air, Tony, because you've got a particular situation you'd like to explore.
Yeah, I'm not sure whether we're going to have time for that now, but maybe we can get a little bit of it covered. Council tax. We had a show on here with Uniquely, who's in the chat now, and Pat Valden and Vin a couple of weeks ago. We've got different ideas on council tax and how to go about it, and different successes as well. So I was wondering what Rob's approach was, because at the minute my particular situation, I haven't actually responded to mine yet, because I'm still trying to make up my mind how to go about it. I've already been through the false summons process and found guilty, obviously, in my absence, and they've put this big fine my way, or this big bill, and they're threatening all sorts of other bits and pieces, and they've sent me this form to fill in, which is, you know, it's not going to get filled in by me with all this personal details about the ins and outs of everything. I'm not doing that. So I'm wondering if you had any thoughts on that, Rob?
Yeah, you know, Tony, we could do a full show just on council tax alone.
Yeah,
I've had so many. Difficult. One of the hardest ones to do, and I used to tell people right at the start, don't do mortgages, don't do cars, and don't do council tax. And I think they're the fucking first three I did almost, or in the top five. Really difficult because they've got primary and secondary legislation on their side, and so they think these councils are horrible, horrible people. They must be handpicked. So it's really difficult to combat it because they will not give in. Department of Work and Pensions and your councils just will not give in no matter what. So it's really difficult. There's so many ways, so many things that I've used. We're going to have to do a longer talk on it because I won't be able to get the information out, and I know Dell's got some great ideas on it. But one thing to be aware of that the council's run by a CEO. In my town, usually the CEO's the top man. But what I did realise about 2 or 3 years ago, and this is why they haven't been able to lock me up, is that there's also a Lord Mayor. Now, the Lord Mayor is the ecclesiastical office of mine's a borough council, of the council. So what I did is, and I did many other things, but I won't be able to get it in time here. But what I did is, when they'd gone away for years, and then every few years they try and come back again. And in 2013, a new position was created, concentrics manager, and this woman decided to send me a letter saying, if you don't give us, I think it was $5.5 grand, we're going to go for a committal to prison in 7 days. And so what I did is I then notified the CEO, but I also notified the Lord Mayor, who was in the same office, and told him, the Lord Mayor swears an oath when he takes up the office to, I can't remember the exact wording, to do well by all manner of people in the borough. He's the Lord Mayor of the Burgess. Now it's people, not persons. And so I, as a courtesy notice, notified the Lord Mayor and told him what the CEO and the council were doing. They were trying to force me into a service under a legal name that's fraudulent and wasn't me, and they were trying to coerce me into fraud, and they were trying to pin a service on me that I didn't require. I didn't want a contract with you, and I didn't want to have anything to do with. And so I informed the Lord Mayor that should they take action and arrest me, that I'll be naming him as a witness on my behalf, because he swore an oath, an ecclesiastical oath, to protect all manner of people in the borough. So he would be my key defence witness against these people, and amongst other things, that's why it went away. And I don't really know too many people that have done that, but it certainly kept him quiet. They've tried back a few times, but that's just some things they use. But to be honest, Tony, it's too numerous to be able to mention in this next sort of 5 minutes.
Yeah, I guessed it would be by a long way. I mean, I've spent quite a lot of time looking at a lot of different points of view on this, and I find a lot of it, well, it can get really confusing, and it gets a bit weird, and, well, you know yourself, it's all over the place. So what I was trying to do was come up with something eventually that will simplify this process, if it's possible, for everyone.
Okay, Tony, sorry to just jump in. Just to protect yourself now, do not be that legal name. Don't associate with it. Nobody can pin a legal name on you. They're coercing you into fraud. It's actually legal to have a legal name, unless you've got a bar card. I think Laurie posted earlier on, they swear allegiance to the Crown, that they're part of the bar. They can have a legal name, which is a title we can't, so we're in default dishonour straight away. Do not accept that the legal name is you. Okay, so the next thing is they're going to threaten to come and arrest you. I don't see how anybody can get locked up and do a custodial sentence for council tax. So first, do not be the legal name. Even tell them, look, excuse me, it's Crown copyrighted name. Just say to them, don't be clever, just say, I cannot be that name. I'm engaging in fraud, I will not dishonour myself, and you can't force me into it. So if they can't pin the name on you, there's no obligation, because they can't contract with you. So that's first and foremost. If you go on the Ministry of Justice website, I think it's Ministry of Justice, yeah, just click in, I've not got it in front of me, I could have put it in the chat room, look at magistrates' roles, and it tells you about what magistrates do. You'll find it. And I've been sending this out to lots of people, and there's one section, and it says magistrates' civil roles, and it goes on to what they can do. They can lock people up for 6 months and deal with crimes. But on one section, it's only one sheet, it says magistrates' civil roles, and it says magistrates perform civil roles such as the non-payment of council tax. Well, there you go, on their own website. It's telling you that it's a civil role, it's not criminal. If it's not criminal, you can't be locked up. I don't see how anybody, it's off their website, you just give them the sheet and say magistrate civil role, such as non-payment of council tax. I can't understand why people get bullied and coerced and threatened and actually get locked up for it. So, first and foremost, to protect yourself, do not be the legal name. Don't give them any name. You're no under obligation to have any name whatsoever. You can pick a name today, Tony, and it can change tomorrow. It can change hourly. I went into court as first time I ever went into court. I went into court as I am adopted spirit of the Chiricahua Apache. That was my name, and the magistrates ended up calling me Mr. I Am in the end. And I said, "Oh no, don't call me Mr. I Am." I says, "Oh, I'll do it to help you, but I'm not a corporate." And so they accepted that my name was I Am Adopted Spirit. Blah blah blah. But you don't even have to have a name. I didn't know much back then. So don't be the legal name no matter what, anytime. Send it back. Anything you get from a council, send it back. Oh man, I'm hogging the airtime. I'm sorry about this. We used to send it back, no contract return to sender. I think I may have been the very first one, or one of the first. I had a friend who got sacked from the post office, and he showed me how to put addressee not recognised. Because if you put no contract with councils, they might argue that there is a perceived contract or an agreement. So I think I was one of the first to put addressee not recognised and return to sender, send it back. What you're saying is they have to send it in your legal name, with either in capitals or a Mr. So what you're saying is the addressee is not recognised and send it back. And you're telling him I am not the name. The name, it's not me. That name don't live here. You tell him it's a dead entity, basically. Do not acquiesce to that name, and there's no action they can take on you. But we need to do it on a different show. Sorry about that.
No, that's all right. This is what we want to hear. We do the RTS here at People's Internet Radio, but there's a modified version that's been done in the back, and it says, "Return to sender. I do not recognise you. I do not understand your intent. I do not have an international treaty with you. No assured value. No liability." So I've been using it.
That's interesting.
Yep. I was telling the other day. I was telling the other fellas I was on with about how the council got to me with their electoral register. They sent it in their well dressed up envelope with, it's obvious what's inside it, all the green stuff all over it. So I put an RTS sticker on it and sent it back. And then they sent another one that was addressed to the occupier. The first one was addressed to my legal fiction, and the second one was addressed to the occupier. So I did the same thing and sent it back, and then they sent me another one about a week later. Only this one came in an unmarked white envelope with absolutely nothing on it and no return address or anything, and it was in there. What do you went on that?
It was the same. Interesting.
Go on, Dal.
That's interesting.
That's what I thought.
These people are, isn't it? Rob's absolutely spot on. What we've been doing, and it's so far. But I've got a friend, and she's doing basically what you've done. She's fighting the council tax, and I'm saying you don't have to pay it because you're not obligated. Rob's right. Addressee, return to sender, no contract, red writing, 45-degree angle, get sent back, and they've been trying to argue with this with us for ages. Addressee not recognised. Rob's right. Wherever he's telling you, that's where I've gone. Where it's gone down. But we've been asking them, the council office, we've been asking them to show where the Local Government Act and the Bill of Exchange Act 1082 have been repealed in the sections. I think it's, I can't remember the section 79C and something else, where it's been repealed in law, where the council are not liable to pay the council tax. Because if it's not been repealed as a statute, then you're liable. And what's interesting, Tony, so far, the council have not sent us anything back. They just keep saying that you've got to pay it. I'm saying, no, you've got to pay it, because in statutory obligations, you are obligated under the Local Government Act to pay it, because that has not been repealed, and you have not sent us no evidence that that's been repealed, and until you do, we're not paying nothing. And that's what we've been doing, but essentially that's what Rob's saying. There is not, they just keep saying they've got a presumption of a contract. We're saying, no, you have a contract, this is your contract because it's in your statute. And so if it's not been repealed, then it stands in statutory legal fictions. So as far as I know, Rob, I mean, if you found it, Rob, anywhere the Local Government Act has been repealed, Section 79, and the government, Local Government Act, I don't think it's not repealed. I haven't been able to find where it's been repealed.
I'm going to have to stop you. I'm going to have to stop you. We're 3 minutes, 3 seconds over. Cheers, everyone, for joining us. And I know we're going to do this again soon. So thanks, everyone. Cheers.
Hi, everyone. Zach, good evening. Good morning, and welcome back to Enemy Within. This is our third show tonight, when it's actually tomorrow. So make of that what you will. But just the information we're getting out tonight seems to be quite well received. Putting out some important stuff there, so I'd like to welcome back Fragz and Tony and Dale and Rob Freeman again. Welcome back, guys.
Hi.
So, where would we all like to go with this part tonight?
Where haven't we been so far? We haven't been off here since we was last here, have we? It's been like a roller coaster. I've had
shopping, Tony.
I've had a very informative night so far. But what you was just talking about there before the music finished was pretty good stuff as well. I mean, you got to finish about that. I don't know.
Well, Mark, you've perhaps got an event you want to plug there.
Oh, I didn't expect that. 28th of November, Liverpool City Centre. We're going to be being quite static on that day. Personally don't like petitions, but we're looking to get a petition going. We've still not chosen relevant lawful documentation yet. What we're going to try and pin the head of Merseyside Police down with regarding the keyword which Del just mentioned as well is safeguarding of children, which is total doublespeak. They're doing the opposite. But we want to get dialogue going so we can have them basically admit their wrongs. But it's going to be a bit of a crazy day because we're going to have a dance troupe there. Some people will be dressing up as teddy bears. I know this sounds crazy, but we know crazier things. But really the idea of this is to get like the kids pulling the parents over to make them aware of all the child abuse, safeguarding, blah blah blah. Don't apply there. So yeah, it's that's it. I mean, I wasn't really going to plug that, but yeah. But I would like Del and Rob were just explaining really well there. It is difficult to get the relevant local documentation to pin down these people who are just corporate officers. So yeah. But like we just Del just was saying before we come online, their officers, we've got to pin them down with common law. So I've had some great conversations with these two guys as well.
Yep, that's the problem. You're dealing with the private pseudo-public servants. They're not, and private is not public, and that's the problem. So they're not on common law. So treat everyone on 1213 with King John. This country used to have common law, and then I think the Pope got together with Stephen Langton because his country again was at war, fighting silly wars as usual, and then they decided that the king had his crowns of the kingdom, and basically the Pope came and took them, and Stephen Langton, the Archbishop of Canterbury, as it is today, still the Church of England, which through the General Synod is still part of the Catholic Jesuit Church. It always has been and always will be, and they've never relinquished that treaty. So when Magna Carta was signed in 1215, the Pope voided it anyway because he already knew he had a treaty ahead of that that was a higher treaty, and the kingdoms of the country was in the Vatican anyway. So the problem you've got the so-called police constables who are not constables. They're taking their oath, but people think they're oath under the think it's a promissory oath Act 1872. You're supposed to do, as Rob mentioned earlier, it's meant to do right by manner of all people, but they don't do that. They just protect corporate fictions and the Crown's interest. So the problem you've got is them calling themselves officer when they deal with them, because what capacity are you going to deal with this so-called pseudo-public servant in, which is actually, he's not public, he's private. So the issue is getting them to hold that common law oath to uphold the law to protect the people and get them in that capacity. and if you're getting them in that capacity, in terms of the Chief Constable, and then saying, well, this is the evidence we're putting together, this is the evidence that we've got, and you've got a duty to safeguard, and if not, then you need to be looking at indicting them, because they're supposed to protect people, not cause harm. And that's where Rob comes in, and I want Rob to talk about the health and safety stuff, because they can't cause harm to us. Go ahead, Rob.
Yeah, I had a document somewhere, and I can't find it anymore, and it shows that the police have got no duty of care over citizens, which I found really strange. And I'll try and find this document out and post it in the chat room at some point this week. So it sounds crazy that they've got no duty of care to look after citizens. But, as Del rightly said, originally they were constables, and they've been corporatised like everything else and changed into officers now. So their duty of care is for the corporation that they're working for, which sounds a bit crazy, really. So what we've got to do is pin them back down to, we've pin ourselves back down to being men and women, enforce the common law, like we've said on many occasions, and get them to recognise with this documentation that's been mentioned that they're not working in an official capacity as corporate officers. That's not what we need. That's not what the original constables were about. They swore that oath. They still swear that oath, even though half of them don't even know what it means. They can't even remember it. And it's to look after all manner of people, not persons in the corporate sense. So that's what we need on this documentation. And one angle to come from it is back what I mentioned earlier about health and safety. Not the health and safety that's the legislation health and safety, but health and safety as in we know that they're under obligation to do no harm to a living soul. That's the health and safety that we need to do, that we need to enforce. And so again, on this document, we need to force these constables to recognise that every situation they attend, every encounter with men, women and children basically, carries a potential risk of some sort, and they've got to start reassessing or assessing the situation, assessing the risks, and acting as constables, as protective servants for people and not corporate officers.
Nice one. You see, like as you mentioned there with the health and safety thing. I mean, we spoke offline early on about this as well a bit. I think it's absolutely brilliant. I mean, it's one of those where I'm kind of kicking myself, thinking, "Why I think of this?" Do you know what I mean? But the point of that I'm going to make now is the point where we know harm has been done, but yet no one's been brought to book. You see, because as you guys obviously explain really well as well, is the illusion of the common law being enacted in everything. Hence, constable, no, there's an officer now because it's corporate title. You know, so to that point where no harm has been done, so basically you're saying that the health and safety must be then really the most effective way of pinning these to the wall, at the very least to get a dialogue going anyway.
It is, but there's an extra factor that I never mentioned earlier because I forgot, and I've only uncovered this last 2 or 3 years, is that there's a thing called, that you've probably heard of, called contributory negligence. And what it is that every single man and woman on this planet has an obligation to not just not cause harm, but not put anybody else at the potential risk of harm. So you've got to identify that yourself, and we do this naturally. We do it subconsciously without realising it. For instance, when you first meet someone, you don't. You may shake hands with them, but you're polite. You don't start shouting and swearing and being aggressive and shoving them, pushing them about. A lot of it's just down to common sense, manners, and respect, and treating people like you want to be treated. So we actually are doing risk assessments without even realising it. We're doing a risk assessment when we're going to meet somebody in a pub and we've never been to this pub before. It's on a dark street, there's a few people stood outside. Subconsciously, this is why it's such a beautiful, natural thing. We are constantly doing risk assessments. I don't know, for those of us who've got children, we're taking them to school, and we're constantly, now we're vigilant, aren't we? We're vigilant of the traffic, and we constantly are doing, assessing risks and reassessing them.
Yeah, get in school.
Pardon?
Till the kids are in school and it's all bloody gone to pot, that, isn't it?
Yeah, then we put at risk, aren't they? Yeah, so based on that, we're under an obligation not to put anybody else at potential risk of harm. And remember, there's not got to be harmed, it's just a potential risk. There's a thing called contributing negligence where we're also under obligation not to put ourselves at potential risk of harm. And this is how these corporations have been getting away with things. By us acquiescing or consenting, we're actually negligently contributing negligently to ourselves, to putting ourselves at risk of harm. So it's up to us. No one can do it for us. We've got, if the other side won't do the risk assessment, we've got to notify them first. If we have to notify the other side first. If they don't do the risk assessment and go away, then we can step forward and do the risk assessment. So that particular document that we're talking about, I think, is really going to be an elongated risk assessment. And we can, it's same with the chemtrails, it's same with the fluoride in the water. Instead of arguing facts and figures, whatever facts and figures we can come out with, the experts working for these all these different government bodies and different agencies can come out with more facts and figures that supersede ours. But remember, the key to all this is that you only have to be put at the potential risk of harm. So if you can cast a doubt, cast a shadow over a chemical, something in the sky, something that you're having with your water, in your food, all you've got to do is cast a doubt on it, and that entirely opens up a different ballgame. Did that even make sense to me, that?
Absolutely, mate, absolutely, because what you brought to my mind, anyway. Sorry, Della, do you want to say anything there? Sorry, dude.
No, go ahead.
Okay, cheers, mate. No, I'm just thinking, like, when you look at, like, say, in the hospital now, kind of, I mean, a lot of us probably know about, like, the Liverpool Care Pathway thing. It's corporate. Then you look at, say, like, the doctors and the way they're trained. I mean, that's the excuse, if you like. But yet they're putting people in harm by, ironically enough, making in a place to make them better. Corporate, obviously. I mean, I know there's one hospital, I can't remember off the top of my head, a bank literally owns it. Do you know what I mean? And it's your corporate side. And that's an example comes straight to my mind with the way he's explaining that there, Rob. I mean, they're just literally. I mean, you can go on about like cancer treatments and stuff and all that's owned and run by corporations and charities, NGOs, and you know it's pretty global. The whole thing is global. You know, their MO is all the same, and it's quite uncanny. But yeah, you're meant to go in to get better, but no. I mean, it's like look at Big Pharma, the drugs you take, they're making money. You know, but there is a duty of care which we mentioned before as well. This is the conflict, isn't it not?
It is, and we've got to be precise with that duty of care. Duty of care from a corporate organisation is believe it or not, is a duty of care to the legal title name that most people think is us. This is why I said police officers now haven't got a duty of care. As crazy as it sounds, because a corporation is a fictitious entity, it hasn't got a duty of care to a living man or woman. Now, I know it sounds a bit crazy. This is why I said we've got to establish that you are a man or woman before we put that document to the police. So there's a duality going off there. Yeah. Now, because of motu proprio from Pope Francis back in 2013, these corporate officers now, we've got to bring them back to their men and women status themselves, because then they have got a duty of care. Negligence can be, you can harm people through negligence in any arena, any venue, any walk of life, from sat on a bus to crossing the road to anything. And so you in that respect, there's a bit of feedback there. In that respect, you have got a duty of care to other people. So we need to bring these officers back to being men and women status, and then we stay in our men and women status. So in other words, we stay out of the corporate fiction world altogether.
Yeah, no, that's you got me well thinking as usual. I think this is one of my heavy nights tonight, and me asking all the questions. It's absolutely, my head's absolutely full with this. It all makes so much sense. Kind of kicking myself, as I said it before. But yeah, I mean, to nail these people, I mean, as I explained, it's just to really get dialogue going with them so they can trip themselves up, and then that's something you give to the public yet again. It's a tedious, long kind of walk to walk, but it has to start somewhere, doesn't it? I mean, and I think what you say with the health and safety thing, I mean, it goes into absolutely everything. As I think we spoke offline early on, and you mentioned it overrides law itself as it's being incorporated today.
Yep, and I agree with Rob. Entirely agree with all of you. And this is what you've got. An example of the so-called officers is when you see. Can you still hear me?
Yep, I can hear you, Del.
Hold and clear.
All right. Right,
I think if we mute our mics when we're not speaking, because there's a bit of feedback, I think.
All right. Well, as long as you can hear me, as long as I'm coming through clearly, and the so-called officers, we need to they when they do their so-called jobs and they're meant to be helping people, and they don't often do it, but now and again you'll see them actually doing something they're supposed to do and do it professionally and do it properly. And that is caring, and that shows you that they're not supposed to cause harm. And that's when you see that side of it that is there. Rob's tapping into that side of them not being able to cause harm. But the issue is you've got to be able to get into them consciously, because these people are thinking that all they're ever meant to do is go to work, fill out paperwork, and that's about it. And it's not about that. It's about being able to correspond with these people and make them aware of in their capacity as a constable, not as an officer, as a constable, that they're there to honour their oath and they need to honour it. And getting them to honour that and stay in honour, that's the most important thing that you like Rob saying, from a health and safety point, is getting them to honour their oath and then put them under those obligations so that they don't go beyond their capacity and don't cause harm to those who they're supposed to look after, which are the people. The legal corporate fiction illusion due to paperwork they've got, they need to throw that aside, and the only way you can do that is like you've said, is using that law of correspondence. You need to use that law of correspondence and have dialogue with them, and that's because you're sending that man as a man and a woman, you're sending that vibration, that same energy, and that's what has an impact on these people, because otherwise it's going to be, it's going to be a hard fought work. Can you still hear me, or is it not coming through very clear?
Loud and clear. I'm just going to give a little positive example here. When we was all meeting up to do our walk through Liverpool a few weeks ago, we was unsure where to park, because the person who had the car went in had a blue badge, right? And we are liaising with these police, so they come and meet us and everything, blah blah blah, and they was telling us there's a certain protest going on, which basically involved the neo-Nazis and the anti-fascist movement, and they wanted to keep us a little bit away, but they were dead light with us. They were, we was in charge. And anyway, so this car's parked up, and obviously these corporate parking machines now, which don't give you no information, which is entrapment straight away, obviously. Yeah. I said to this police constable, because he was acting as an individual human, right? And his actions told me that, because what he said to my face was, I'm not sure myself, but take my number, and he's pointing to his shoulder straight away, and he says, if you get a ticket, right, send them, obviously, your letter. I forgot the word he used, but it is a word that you guys probably know inside out, sorry to forget. And he says, mention my number, and I will back you up if you get a ticket. And I thought, right, hang on a minute. I just nodded and walked away and told everyone, I can't believe what just happened. But he was literally acting as a human, eye contact, leaving me I was in charge, do you know what I mean? And that's rare. I'd say it's very rare.
Well, that is so rare nowadays, Mark, but you have had instances of police staff, shall we say, right, coming across to you and saying they don't like what's going on. And
oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
They kind of want to help you out.
Absolutely, yeah. Well, there was the Saturday I'm on about when I was in Liverpool. A few of my good friends were up in Wakefield, and they'd done the same thing. They all just got together to make a good noise outside the council building. They did it on the Friday with the whole reason of getting these new interns, if you like, seeing what they're walking into, which I think is really effective, very, very well thought out. Our Saturday was like, to get the public. And there was a copper that approached one of the people who was, one of the organisers it was. And that couple was literally close to tears, saying that they'd been through the care system and sexually abused themselves. And not only that, there was a 17-year-old kid who was sat on the field just a bit away on a tray and ended up breaking down. This is breaking through, but that couple and all the police were absolutely brilliant. I mean, there's quite a lot of stuff online out there as well, which you can find, of people who have left the police, saying all I'm doing is protecting paedophile counsellors. No, obviously, I'm going back to, obviously, now how they're marching all over our rights, if you like, yeah? Because they've got skeletons in the cupboard and blah, blah, blah. I mean, Senator Siberaid said it, he's all over the internet with that one, saying they want to employ people who have got, who are paedophiles, basically, that's his words.
Yeah.
And that's how they're walking over the law, because they're going to do as they're told. So who's this higher power? I mean, I know Dallas on it early on, brilliantly again, about who they really are and the illusion of, common law, as they say. I mean, you go back to Runnymede and stuff. I mean, this is an irony that comes to my mind quite a bit. Is we've literally got to always have a sword on our belts to make sure that the crown doesn't take over, which obviously going to the Vatican and the rest of it. We've got to always be armed, but they disarmed us. I forgot what year it was now, to be honest, top of my head. But yeah, and we're seeing it, so it's the same thing today. If you know your history and you've got an idea of tomorrow, it's simple. It's not changed.
Yeah, you're right, and you've got to realise a lot of this system is vast, like Rob was saying earlier. And this beast is wicked. And so I'm going to be on Rob's front and say, look, the laws they keep saying no excuse. I don't like that one, but that's what they keep applying them off with. So, you've got to use that law of correspondence and respond to these as these people as you need. And the best way to do that, which is what you're talking about, is to put them on notice. And there's ways of doing that is to notice them by using documentation and which is autographed rather than signed, fingerprints on there, and you get your witnesses, and everybody autographs it, and then you send it to the relevant agencies, certain government so-called capacities and CEOs and relevant people, and you just tell them, right, as of now, because you've not your knowledge is, and you've gained more knowledge and wisdom, you're now putting them in their capacity, as I'm going to touch on in a second, under motu proprio, and say, look, you did used to have immunity that got responsibility. You've got so you're in a position of power. The problem with these people, they want all the power that comes and the privilege that comes with that. The issue is they don't want the responsibility. Well, we've got to put back into the place by doing the documentation and making them aware is that we have our rights and that we're going to uphold our own rights, and therefore those who go beyond their capacity will be held accountable and responsible for what they have done to those of us who are we the people. And that's the issue. And that comes through as vibration, through as consciousness, and through as knowing as our fundamental rights and freedoms are. And applying that math and using it and letting them know that, yes, you're not speaking to some dead, non-decure, legal fiction, Northern Roman, Christian chattel property title, which is a complete illusion. That's not you. You know that. You're a living, breathing, sentient being. So you know that. So you show and prove that in honor, use your own free will and dominion. And you've got the highest claim on yourself, and no one can claim higher than that. And so they then have to honour you correctly, which is what everybody should be doing on this planet, but they don't due to this ecclesiastical programming that is on this planet. Now, part of you getting rid of that is to use what Rob was saying earlier, which is the motu proprio. And I just want to quote from this. I want to read from it, and then I'd like Rob to add in and take on it. Now, this is the apostolic lecture issued motu proprio on his own impulse by the Supreme Pontiff Francis on the jurisdiction of judicial authorities of the Vatican City State in criminal matters. Now, I'll say this: operations through birth certificates, banks, through Saturnalia churches, Saturnalia temples, are all run through what's called the... Sorry, Andy. Do I need to stop?
Yeah, you were just losing you a little bit there, Dale. You were breaking up. You must have been saying something really important there again.
You notice I've been fine until I mentioned that, Andy. Alright, am I good to go, Andy?
Yeah, you're breaking up a little bit. I think we can just about make out what you're saying there.
Alright, let me get this a bit closer. Let me make a sort of adjustment. Is that any better?
Not much, no.
Oh, I'm trying to make adjustments and move my mic around a bit and just...
Hey now, Dale.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yeah. Started that.
Alright, well, we'll see how long it goes for before something happens. Right, so I'll try and get this out, Andy, if it works. Andy, just stop me if it does go a bit funny, you can't hear, because it's important that people hear the correct information, so no problem with that. Alright, I'm good to go. Am I okay? Am I here? Have I gone? Am I here?
Right, you're back now. You went
Back
really
again,
bad.
Dale.
Right, yeah, you see what I mean? As soon as I start talking about something that we needed, they start to play. Okay, can you hear me clearly? Have I gone again?
You come back better again now, Bill.
Jimmy says it's sounding all right there.
Okay, just stop me if I need. If it can just stop me. Alright.
Right, you can't.
Okay, so in our times, just remember that every corporation is under what's called the Rome Curve. Oh, please don't go on me when I'm getting into my favourite bit. This is not good.
No, it's not good at all.
Am I here? Have I gone? Am I here?
Yeah, you're here now, but every time you start talking about that, you turn into a Dalek.
They don't want us to get it out, do they? I wanted to make a quick comment on it. Please, let's speak. Right. You hearing me okay? Oh, no.
I don't think it's going to work for you, Dale.
Gone, here, gone.
No, I don't think it's going to work for you, mate.
No.
It's not having it.
We know why now, because it stopped me. Well, they don't want us to get the info. Well, you speak a bit and let me see if I can come back. I'm just trying to make adjustments with this stupid laptop. I don't think it's that, but I actually think they're up to the usual. I'm going to try and call back in. Let me call back in. I'm going to try and call back in.
Cheers, Dale.
Could you make any of that out?
Right, you've gone Dalek as well. Do you know what? I know what this is. This is my computer doing this.
Alright. Am I coming through clear?
Dale sounds alright. Someone else talk.
I hope that's a little bit better.
Now, Andy, I think you need to take the stream and carry it on from there. I need to reboot my computer. I think it's happening here. It happened yesterday. The Dalek sound from the software, remember?
Yeah, Dalek.
Yeah. I'll just get me Sam Broadcaster started up and I'll take the stream up as soon as you drop it, mate.
Right, they'll be back soon, everyone.
See you shortly, Tony.
Cheers, mate. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to When He Moved In, special edition, part, I don't know, 5, 6, I can't remember how many it is, but we're back here and we're going to keep soldiering on. Tony's dropped off because he was having a bit of a problem with his connection, but Del, can you just go back a few steps and reiterate what you were saying before, please?
Yeah, hopefully I'll talk very clearly, and
you sound a lot better now, mate.
Alright, so I'm just going to read from the Pope's apostolic letter issued motu proprio on his own impulse of Supreme Pontiff Francis on the jurisdiction of judicial authorities of the Vatican City State on criminal matters. Now, what I was saying, Andy, was everybody's got, or most people on this planet, unfortunately, have birth certificates, which are bonds. And all the corporations through central banks, through the court system, which are churches and Saturnalia temples and Freemasonic other temples, are all holding everybody through this bondage. And so your shared name stands short for surety name, which relates to being a slave, and obviously the mister, which is a non-de-gear, is a noble Roman title. So all these legal attachments attach you back into what's called the Roman Curia, and every corporation on this planet is under that Curia. All of them are under the Roman Curia. So this apostolic letter was issued from that Curia, which is the highest governmental organisation on this planet, due to the Inquisition of the Jesuit order and the Roman cult. So I wanted to read from this because it's very relevant to what Rob's been saying in terms of the issue of health and safety, and what Matt's been saying in terms of dealing with constables, and getting people to remain in honour in terms of their obligations, because their immunities in their offices have been stripped. And so now you can deal with the office for the first time ever and actually get them to honour and remain in honour. So at least that way we can at least get them to stop causing harm and issue of safeguarding and bring that to the forefront. So if I'm going through clearly, will just let me know, and then I can start.
Yeah, you're coming through perfectly clearly now, Dale.
Right, we'll have a go and see how I go then. Yeah, and then I would like Rob to kind of jump in once I've done. Okay, in our times, the common good is increasingly threatened by transnational organised crime, the improper use of the markets and of the economy, as well as by terrorism. I'm reading from the letter from the motu proprio, by the way. It is therefore necessary for the international community to adopt adequate legal instruments, with the words, adequate legal instruments to prevent and counter criminal activities by promoting international judicial cooperation on criminal matters. Am I coming through clear with that so far, Andy? Is it not messed up?
Yeah, clear as a bell at the minute, Dale. Thanks, mate.
Dale, can I just say something, mate? You've absolutely nailed something that I've had hold of and lost. But it's not what obviously the documents you've got. It's not. I didn't get that deep into it. But we're looking at the enforcement agency of this is the United Nations. What do you think?
Yes, and that's because they're using because the Curia is an international organisation, because the Pope and the Jesuit order have all the secret seats on the UN. So a lot of people don't know this, but the UN is basically run by the Jesuits, the ecclesiastical orders, and so anything you see publicly on the UN, there's always a private side, and the private side is where the Pope has his secret seats. So the priesthood have their secret seats on top of the UN. So if anything gets vetoed, the priest can pass it through regardless. So it doesn't matter what the corporate countries say, it doesn't matter what they say. What matters is what the priesthood say, because they decide what happens. So that's why I wanted to use this particular letter, because it applies to all. It can be used. It can be used in any corporate fiction country with a central bank and a church and a Saturnalia Baal temple cult, which all this country has those elements in. So there's, in other words, they can't hide behind something, like they always hide all the time. Well, this stops them from hiding, as Rob will get into once I've finished.
Nice.
Okay, so I'll keep going, and if you want to jump in and just say anything, add that, and we'll stop whenever you need to, Matt. That's fine.
No, I mean, I bet Rob's itching there, isn't he?
No, I'm okay. I'll let Dale finish his speech, He's saying some of the stuff I was going to say anyway, but keep reading on, Dale.
Cheers, Rob. In ratifying numerous international conventions, and the key word conventions there, because they're fundamental rights that cannot be trampled on. I'll keep going. In these areas, and acting also on behalf of the Vatican City State, and it's actually the Vatican City's estate, because when you see the word state, it's an estate, because Just I want to just divulge into this briefly. You've got five underpinnings. You've got 4 laws, and then the ecclesiastical underpins them. So you've got, Rob knows this, you've got contracts, which we talked about. You've got estate law. You've got property law, and you've got there's another one. I've missed one. Trust law, that's it, trust law, therefore. And underpinning all those underneath is ecclesiastical law. And all those other laws touch on, are attached to that ecclesiastical one. So if you kill the ecclesiastical law first, the others all then fall off, because it's the ecclesiastical law under penance, under the curia, under the holy sacraments, that the priests are actually using upon the planet, and that's the mind control I was talking about. With this eugenics stroke ecclesiastical black magic that the priests are doing over in the States right now, as opposed to visiting Obama and all them. It's all an illusion, but this is the magic that we're going to get into. But nevertheless, that's what they've been up to, so I'll keep going. So yeah, it's an estate because of the Cestui Trust of 1666, where the Pope declared everybody dead beyond the sea when you get beyond 7 years old. So they've been up to some mad things, but we'll keep going anyway. So the Holy See, meaning the Pope's title, because he controls the Holy See of Souls, meaning he knows the people. He doesn't control us, but he's got a claim on us through convocation, but we just need to rebut that in law, and it stands. But we know this anyway. The Holy See has consistently maintained that such agreements are effective means to prevent criminal activities that threaten human dignity, the common good and peace. With a view to renewing the Apostolic See's commitment to cooperate to these ends by means of this apostolic letter issued motu proprio. 1. The competent judicial authorities of the Vatican City State shall also exercise penal jurisdiction over crimes committed against the security, the fundamental interest or patrimony of the Holy See. Crimes referred to, and I'm just going to read a bit further down, in the Vatican City State Law, July the 11th, 2013, containing supplementary norms on criminal law matters. Alright? In Vatican City State Law, amendment, I think it might be 10 here, containing amendments to the criminal code and the criminal procedures. Okay? When such crimes are, this is the key bit I want to mention now, when such crimes are committed by the persons referred to in paragraph 3 of the law, exercise of their functions. Any other crime whose prosecution is required by an international agreement ratified by the Holy See. So they've all agreed to this because the Holy See has agreed to it. If the perpetrator is physically present in the territory of the Vatican City State and has not been extradited. The crimes referred to in paragraph 1 are to be judged pursuant to the criminal law in force in the Vatican City State at the time of their commission, without prejudice to the general principles of the legal system on the temporal application on criminal laws. Now, I'm just going to stop there just for 1 second. That means anybody working within the Vatican, what's happening is that's referring to anybody who's an officer. Alright, so basically you used to have immunities, but their own immunities are being stripped, and that's what I'm going to get into now. For the purposes of Vatican criminal law, the following persons are deemed public officials, former private officials. So they're letting you know what's going on public and private, they're letting you know. Exempt from law are now within the law that dictates and are held liable, aka public servants. So now they can be held liable. Members, officials and personnel of the various organs of the Roman Curia and of the institutions connected to it. And that's worldwide corporations, and all individuals are in trust, are corporation pursuant to their birth certificate. Because the Pope's making a claim through convocation, which is the third trust that he's got with a tiara that he's got on his head. He wears the fish hat, representing the age of Pisces. I'm only getting on that tonight, we'll leave that for now. The papal legates and diplomatic personnel of the Holy See, the Pope governs the Church People Trust and all people in the Birth Trust through the Roman Curia governing the body of the Vatican. Okay, let me keep going, I'm not too far off. Those persons who serve as representatives, managers or directors, as well as persons who even de facto manage or exercise control over entities, public servants, directly dependent on the Holy See, trust beneficiaries, is that who they are, for the Sestacute Trust, and listed in the registry through birth certificates of canonical jurisdictional persons, legal fiction represented by our birth certificate in all caps. So that's what they're letting you tell. Kept by the governor of the Vatican City State. So they know what they've been doing with the Annuities Act of 1929 and the Sestacute Trust. So they know what's been going on, and they've been right at the heart of it all, as me and Rob will get into in a second. Any other person holding administrative or judicial mandate in the Holy See, permanent or temporary, paid or unpaid, irrespective of that person's seniority, alright, and now the jurisdiction referred to in paragraph 1 compromises that the administrative liability of judicial persons arising for crimes and as regulated by Vatican City State law, public servants are now held liable for crimes against humanity. That's the key word. So now, before they had the immunity, they don't have that immunity more, and that came into force on September the 1st, 2013. That's the thing that we need to start using now, and indicting these public servants and letting them, holding them to their oath and getting them to remain in honour. And it's using documents like this, which Rob will talk about in a sec, that it's been having success with, and this is that issue of health and safety in harm. Can you jump in here, Rob, and just add up?
Yeah, just so people don't get confused here, I know you mentioned crime and criminal a lot there, Del, and people might say, well, how does that apply to civil matters? But the thing I talked about earlier on being taught, for instance, if you notify someone that there's a potential risk of harm, and they carry on, and if you tell them, look, I'm being harmed, an officer of a corporation, for instance, you're now harming me, when they persist to do it, it then becomes criminal. So I've used motor proprio now 18 times, and my 3 friends have used it. So all in all, I've been involved with notifying corporations. Sorry, I just got a message through there. I've been involved altogether 21 times in notifying corporations, solicitors, courts, CEOs, all manner of people. So 21 times that I've been involved with it, we've notified them, and I've been doing this since 2013. And out of the 21 different people that we've notified, all officers of companies and stuff, have a guess how many have actually responded to and acknowledged motor proprio out of the 21? Not one out of 21 has ever wrote back and said, what the fucking hell is this motor proprio? That's a load of rubbish. Or, I take note that you're sending me motor proprio. Not one of them has mentioned it. This is from judges to police officers to CEOs. So the very fact that not one officer of any corporation has ever mentioned it tells me that it's a really, really strong tool that we can use. Does someone want to come in there?
That's brilliant, Rob. Yeah. Sorry, did you want to say something else there, Mark?
Yeah, I mean, quite a few things. You guys just bloody nail it for me, I'll be honest with you. But I did read somewhere quite a while ago, I was looking at Agenda 21, and the people who are employed in the EU and the UN are immune to prosecution even after leaving office. That was one that you was mentioning there, what you was reading out though. That kind of nailed it for me there, taking me back a bit as well.
Yeah, there was immune. Yeah, you're absolutely correct. There was immune. But like I said to you, every corporation is under that curia, and sometimes that's issued from that curia, and remember, Fragz is a Jesuit. Yeah, so the covert is coming over it now. They're not even hiding behind the scenes no more. They're coming over it. So they're letting you know what's cracking. Word.
Yeah, where my mind goes with that is okay, so we've got, if you like it, what you call a remedy, is that right? So 2013, you said September, when this had changed. right? I'm kind of really interested how that changed. That's probably another shock on its own, and why and everything. But I've had a thing really for quite a long time now where we externalise our power now to say, well, basically the United Nations, and we kind of try and bring common law into effect. I mean, we've got to start screaming in bloody people's faces and stuff, especially the officials. But the thing is, we externalise then our power to, like, okay, right, listen, my council's not helping me, right, and it gets that serious, you have to take this fight, if you like, to the United Nations or international courts or whatever kind of, well, idiot courts, if you like, one way or another. But we're not keeping it within our own courts, you know, from no common law. I mean, I'll say it again, I mean, I'm not really clued up as much as you two on this, so I'm really just throwing questions, genuine questions from myself. Hoping people listening obviously will pick up from that as well anyway.
Yeah, it's not internalising. You've got, the issue is you've got to realise that you've got fundamental rights. You're a living, breathing, sentient being. You're speaking to me right now using that law of correspondence. Yeah. The issue is these dumbass pseudo public servants who are claiming who are private, who are actually private, they're not public, who are forcing you into positions that they shouldn't be doing. What more appropriate does, it gets them to remain in honour. You're using it to hit them over the head with their own contract. That's their own thing. That's what I'm saying, using it to stop them from causing you harm, because they don't even know how to conduct themselves. You know how to conduct yourself. Yeah. You're not going around with a gun hitting nobody on the head. You're not in the lodge doing some mess of the ritual. We know how to conduct ourselves. It's these dumbass public servants that don't know how to conduct themselves. So what we do is in that is to use their contract to hit them over the head with it, so they can stop causing us harm and wake them up, because they're the ones who are sleeping.
Hey, Del, make them draw a bad card, innit?
You know what I mean? So it's a case of waking them up to say, yo, you lot are not supposed to be doing this. Do you not realise you're causing me harm? Fix yourselves up, man, and conduct yourself properly.
Absolutely. Brilliant.
Yeah, I'll comment on this.
Okay, cheers. And yeah, just to finish off with those 21 people that I said, all different titles and job titles and qualifications, all different officers. Not only did not one of them even acknowledge more appropriate or question it or say anything, their attitudes completely changed as soon as they were notified about more appropriate. They suddenly started doing from their correspondence, they suddenly changed. They weren't arrogant, they weren't bullying, they weren't threatening. So in a way, it's almost like a humongous global risk assessment done by Pope Francis. But I just want to reiterate that although it's a great tool for us to use, Supreme Pontiff Francis hasn't written it with our looking after us on our behalf, really. And Del will back me up on this and probably expand on it a little bit. The Vatican have realised what's happening, that the ship's going to hit the fan very, very soon. And in my opinion, they're deserting a sinking ship. They're bailing out. And I think they're going to bail out because they're going to change their mask and set up elsewhere. So I think that's what's happening. There's a bit of background noise there. I don't know if someone's left the mic open.
And you're dropping things as usual.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I like what you're saying there. I mean, because I hate to use mainstream, but I do look at it for clues, but not as much as I know people who do, and trying to do more so. But they're starting to get a lot of media quotes, really, if you like, coming from what the Vatican's press releases are and stuff. They're all, I mean, the latest one I've seen today, I don't know whether it's bullshit or not, is, they're on about happy to have RFID going. They're saying aliens are going to land. They're really not giving off the, if you like, Catholic or Christian alleged perfect models to society as feedback, because everyone looks to them. They're the centre of, obviously, the Vatican. I mean, we all know how shady they are. That's an understatement. But yeah, they're kind of a little bit all over. I mean, their telescope's called, they funded a satellite telescope called Lucifer. Is it it's a telescope on the land, it's not a satellite, is that right? It's called Lucifer?
Yeah. Yeah, Lucifer is another name for the planet Venus. Yeah, and this is the thing, it's the sciences that run this planet, like etymology, cosmogony, astrophysiology, linguistics, language, philosophy. They've got the real science that rules the planet, and not only that, but they've also got an awareness of how the planet interacts with other bodies within this solar system, and so they have that advantage. That's why they name things certain things, because it has an energy, and that energy they want to control and have a vibration. Vin was on about it earlier when he mentioned something. And these people don't do something for the sake of doing it. There's always a reason behind them doing it. There's always some kind of gain and benefit. There's a reason why they do it, and there's always a gain and benefit that they gain from this that helps them to do what agenda it is that they've got set. This is something that is fundamental. That's why they're doing what they're doing, because they wouldn't do it, otherwise it wouldn't make no sense for them to do that if it's not going to benefit them. So they definitely do it so they benefit. And 110% absolutely. So the issue I'm got with, and you've said it put it very well, is the fact that they name something, and that name has got, if you do the etymology on it, it'll have a vibration behind it and an energy behind it, and so that's why they name things a certain way, because they'll in one way you think it's bad because of religion, which is real lies going on, in the temples, Saturnalian cult, know that has a meaning that is more profound, and that they use it for that truth for themselves itself, but then they'll give you this Lucifer as the devil and all this stuff and put a negative spin on it. That's what we were talking about earlier with this ecclesiastical black magic they're doing. So I know when they do that, it's some kind of falsehood, and I don't let it program me like it programs other people. But go ahead, Matt.
No, just naming it as usual. I'm getting used to it today. But yeah, it's I don't know, there's quite a few angles you can go on that. But I kind of drifting away to the point of you kind of, I don't know if you watch TV or you read the media or blah blah. You can obviously see if you trace back where. I mean, you look at a media story. Where's it come from? You go and have a look, blah blah blah, and you look at, okay, now I've just found so many people own all the media, blah blah blah, and you look what else they're into, and you think, right, okay, there's your propaganda machine. Okay, what's propaganda machine for? And you trace that back, and you start seeing, right, okay, so what? Then, well, anyway, once you skip a few, if you like, you start seeing what really they're scared of. Them, whoever them are, if you like. Yeah. What are they scared of? Well, I mean, you guys have stood up. You know, you've won. You've lost a few. You've won. You know, or whatever. It's not a numbers game on that one. If you've won one, doesn't matter how many you lose at the end of the day, because you've exposed it for others. It's simple, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm along them lines. I mean, what this covers to me personally, absolutely personally, it covers everything. I mean, you can go. I mean, I don't know. You condense it pretty well there, Del. And you can go right from the person on the street all the way to the top, and then people kind of lose it to that point. Anyway, I mean, I've seen it a lot with stuff I do, and people just can't handle the truth, as the old saying goes, or whatever. Yeah, and you know, the frustration and all that crap. You just keep going on. You once you know something like that, obviously you and Rob are probably not thinking he's dead either, and I'm like, I'm realising I'm talking to you. Do you know what I mean? But yeah, no, I think it's. I mean, the health, going back to the health and safety again, because I did originally ask you guys early on, what could I take to these arseholes, basically, pin them to the wall, get a bit of dialogue going, and start exposing it. But obviously there's a solution or remedy, if you like, there, because you've got these idiots say on health and safety. You see, because obviously things change, as you've informed everybody now. It changed in 2013, and then it's me bringing out something that I was still believing until tonight when you mentioned it, that changed in September 2013. Do you know what I mean? So there's ways forward.
And you can apply that, but the good thing is, you've got witnesses, you autograph your documents, you get correspondence, the thing is, they use a lot of correspondence. This is why I was helping Rob on the Monday. What we're finding out, what we know is fundamentally, they were using the laws in nature, which is what Rob goes back, natural law, and what they're doing is they use it, but then they put a negative twist on it, and then try to program you with the law. Then you end up hating the real law, but the law's proper, but then you put a negative spin in it yourself because they've programmed you to thinking that it's wrong when actually they're doing the right thing, but they're just putting a ecclesiastical spin on it. So when you're corresponding with them, you know that you're not going to accept anything to a non-degear because you're not a mister. You're not going to accept anything. You're not going to stand a shorty. So the thing is, like Rob says, put yourself back as a man or woman and getting them to respond to you as a man or woman. You know what I mean? And that, you can do that using multiple, but you can do that by standing up, knowing your fundamental rights, and using that and applying that math correctly when you're dealing with these people. And to get them up the frighteners, like I said, Rob, because the immunity's being stripped, going for the bonds, asking for the job titles in short, asking them for the job description, asking for the job title, asking for the orphan insurance. Once you start doing that, I've noticed these people, they're going to run and hide. They're going to run and hide. You can even quote them their own statues and hit them over the head with a statue and say, listen, that's what your obligation is. You want to talk about my obligation? Well, guess what? You're so-called in power. Guess what? Well, change. Instead of having the power, I'm going to put some responsibility on your ass instead. So here's some responsibility. Go for the bonds and their oath. Get the job description and say, this is where you're causing me harm, and if you don't do this, I'm going to sue you doing that. And then in the Geneva Codes of 2003, they can go to jail for up to 35 years. They've got to stop this madness, as Rob was saying earlier, because they know that this whole thing's coming downhill, as Rob exposed. This whole system's going to be changed. It's on a 6-6 frequency. It's going to change shortly. They know the BRIC system's coming in with this new monetary system is coming in. So the Jesuit Swiss system is going out. The Pope has to get rid of this corrupt one, because he knows the whole debt that's on this, all this karmic debt is going to come crashing on the church, because everybody knows it's a falsehood. It's an illusion. So it's being exposed all the time. Go ahead, Max. I don't want to, you wanted to speak. Go ahead.
No, we'll listen to it all day, no problem, but I'm just, when you say there about the popes and that, one of them's just kind of been, well, died, hasn't it, or something? Someone important in the Vatican.
Well, I haven't been watching television. I've been kind of switching off.
No, I'm just throwing it out there. I can't really back up much of what I really just said. I've not gone and looked into it, you know, as you should, as we should. You know, so I've just thrown it out there. Maybe you knew it, not really.
Alright, no, I wasn't aware of it. I haven't been watching the television too hard, but I'll be honest with you, I do quite a lot of due diligence. And I just haven't been studying on that. I've been studying on this Saturday thing at the moment and getting that information. But if something's going on, I always say it like this to you: if they're telling you something, they need you to give its energy to it. But I always say to you, I always look at what they're telling me, I'll decode what they're saying, but then at the same time I'll start digging behind that, because there's always something that they want you to look at. But everything you want to look at, there's something that they're getting to look one way while they're doing something behind your back. So what I do is try to look both ways so you're not missing anything. That's what I'd say to you.
Yeah, no, I agree with that, because I mean, it's I mean, straight away, I mean, I think the easiest thing for absolutely anyone is what the old, well, it's a saying, it is to me. I mean, if the news tell you this, think the opposite and you're about right. You know, it's one of those, that's a first stepping stone, if you like. But yeah, going into things a little bit more, and it's not difficult. You don't need research skills, really. I mean, if you want to go down rabbit holes, you need quite a few skills there, or person anyway. But yeah, I couldn't agree more with that. You have to look into it. I mean, for example, we've got this Cameron thing with the pig, right? It's a bit of a laugh, blah blah blah. And I'm already thinking straight away, what's going on right now? I mean, we know they signed these bills to take away our rights and everything, midnight on New Year's Eve or something, you know, when no one can be asked. You know, and you didn't turn up, well, you didn't get a say, you know, all that crap. You know, you're talking about a whole nation you try to protect. I hate to say that word these days, it means the opposite. There we go again, it's the opposite all the time. Like say, they do need our energy, they need our attention, you know, and and then you follow, it's that simple, really. I see it everywhere, pisses me off.
Yeah, no, I can see that, and you're right. Now, they say, oh, well, we're going to take this from you, we're going to take that from you. What they keep referring to when they're going to take something is a privilege. A fundamental right, if you as a living, breathing being, cannot be taken from you. That's what the priest, that's the trauma-based program, and they're trying to get everybody into. So if the priest turn around and say for you, we're going to take this law, we're going to do this law, do it! I'm like, me and Rob are like this, do it! Because fundamentally, I know you, listen, I've got this, what is your claim upon me? The priest is going to say custody, because he can't say the minute, because he will be bearing false witness and not to bust their hairs. It's being stripped now. At the end of the day, priest, listen, I'm not causing no harm, you can't cause me no harm, cease and desist, I'm not contracting with you. Enough said. Me and Rob keep it simple. We're just not contracting with you. The best thing to do is not contract with the beast. Turn your back on him and walk away. Render unto Caesar what is Caesar's. Give unto the Lord what is the Lord. All that thing is there in their book. What they've got, what they keep coming to threaten you with, is trauma-based programming. I look at it and I laugh and I say, I've got dominion over mind, body and spirit and soul. So as far as I'm concerned, what are you going to do? And they can't do nothing. They can sit there, they can talk, they can bring guns, bring your nuclear war. Listen, every cause, there's an effect. So every time you do something, the same thing is going to come back on you. So I'll leave this red density body, not a problem. You're not killing me, you only free me anyways. And when I leave this body and I'm not physically here, I'll be in the ether realms anyway, and I'll be able to do more on that side than I will on this side. So you're not killing me, you free me anyway. But what I do know is, any harm you cause to me, I'm going to make sure the same cause and effect comes back onto yourself, and I'll pull you back into your pulpit from which you emerged. Don't think you can go around and do harm and do as you please without there being a consequence. And this is where I agree with Robert, and it's on point fundamentally. You can't go around and do as you want, and that's what I'm saying with these police. It's about their conduct and how they conduct themselves. And if their conduct is wrong, we need to go for their bonds and indict them. And then he says, look, you lot need to stop causing harm. And I agree with Rob on that one. That's why we was calling for more appropriate, because we need to start indicting these idiots and saying, look, fix yourself up, don't cause us harm, and conduct yourself properly. I'll stop there and let Matt comment.
Brilliant. I tell you what, the way you put it across there, though, man, it comes with any bloody inspiration, mate. Passion talks, doesn't it?
Commitment. It needs to be done, because we can't go back. The thing is, with people like ourselves, we're not going back to being slaves, we're not going back to sleep, that's it. We made a choice, and that choice is we know what we're doing, we know the truth. So fundamentally, we can't go back now. You know, once you've made that choice, you're on that road, and that's the road we're now walking down. And so therefore, they are the keepers in the North Gate. They hold all the doors and they hold all the keys. And at some point, you're going to be going up against them. And the reason why that is because you're going to have to show and prove who you are. And the truth shall make you free, because you've got free dominion. And from time you know that, it don't matter what the beast does, no matter what he threatens you with, you know you've got the highest claim on you, and that kills him stone dead, no matter what he does. And once you know that, he can't take that from you. So you can talk about privileges, taking the privileges away. You can talk about terrorism. I'm not interested. That don't apply to me. It's a legal construct, nothing to do with me. It's a legal fiction. A noble Roman title referring to. That's privilege. That's not me. I'm a living being. That don't apply to me. So every time he comes with that stupid contract on Fragz, him back over his head, send his contract back to him, render back onto Caesar, let him have that contract. There you go. See you there. That's your beef, that's your statue. I didn't sign a contract to vote, so that does not apply to me. It's not my contract, it's nothing to do with me. Doesn't apply. And that's all I'm doing now, that's all Rob does, we just cut the beast off at his head. We're not contracting. The key thing is consent, because as long as that consent is not given, none of their statutes can apply to the living man. They know this, that's why they always want a signature or some kind of an oratory tacit agreement. And all I do is I cut the beast off and say, I'm not contracting you, cease and desist. I just put in his face, and every time I do that, when I interact with public, you ask Rob, I interact with public servants with this kind of mentality. The police come and ask me for my name, first thing he's getting is Rice versus Colony. I can hit them with this is not even real law. I can use statute and hit them over the head with statute.
Yeah.
Rice versus Colony, right? That's, you don't have to give it a name to the police. I've got it in case law. So when they come to ask me, all I'm saying, you're not getting no name, and the first thing I want is your own, and I want your bonded, I want your indemnity insurance. Because the thing is, the police have an oratory agreement with you, because he's trying to do business. Right? I know it's business, it's commerce, because he's an officer. Right? If you're going to do commerce, then I'm going to make you do business contract law properly. So I'm going to put my terms and conditions into this contract. I want your offer, I want your insurance. And that's all I'm interested in. If you don't do that, right, cease and desist, I'm not contracting with you. End of. That's it. And I kill him stone dead. That's it. That's all I do. Stone dead, kill him up. If you're going to do business properly, you do it properly. If you're not doing business with me, cease and desist, no contract. That's it. And that's all I've been doing. And I lock them off stone dead.
Don't you stone dead, lock them off. Go ahead. No. Sorry to jump in there, mate. I'll buy as usual. I mentioned before, like, it's always the predicament I personally get to. I mean, I'm not as red or clued up or whatever as you guys, but it's get to the point. How do we enforce this when they cross all the lines? Well, I think you just said how you do it in your voice alone, mate. Not enough people are getting the hell up. Do you know what I mean? To enact what they've got, but ends going back to when we're talking a little bit on the education side of things these days. No one's getting the empowerment. See, the parents have not even got it. I mean, you can get, I don't know, middle class, upper class, working class, whatever. Well, there's 4 classes if you want to look at it like that, I suppose. But you see, no one's getting the education, and everyone's been too busy if they had a memory of it anyway. We're not seeing enough of it, blah, blah, blah. I mean, I'm not giving a solution here, I'm just raising one of the key issues. But if everyone would go up to the council idiot officer and say what you just said there, with confidence, with passion, yeah, they'll be like, oh shit, I just work here, too late, you've already fell into the trap now. The trap was, you've been working against us all this time anyway, and we was always right. Yes, yeah, I agree. And all they're doing is, that service that they're offering you, they're charging you for that service. So I'm saying, well, that's commerce. That's contract. You see, this is public and private don't mix. You're using private law and you're saying you're a public institution. This is what we've been going into the courts and killing the priests with. All we ask them is 3 questions. Public or private, the priest starts screaming. We ask them for their open their bond. Get him out my court, get him out my court. That's all we get for court security. They can't deal with us in there. I was in there about 2 or 3 months ago. Call that catch-22 situation in the law itself.
We go in there and and listen, you never go on your own. Thou shalt not bear false witness, and you take 3 witnesses. We go in there with at least 3 people. We go in there, make sure we're all clued in, and we just say, listen, this is what we want answering. And the priests don't want to they get off the bench, they walk off the bench, because we know they're going to go off the bench because he's trying to get jurisdiction. I'll stand up, listen, alright, I'll just sit down, me blood. I just sit down, I don't move. You're not my authority. I just sit my ass on that bench, I don't move. I just sit down on the bench and watch the priest come in. I don't move, I'm not concerned to your jurisdiction. You're not my authority. You understand? When you know this mentality and you don't move, and then just you sat there, and then they'll start reading this stuff out. And the first one my friend said to him, yo, what's your name? And then the next thing he goes, and the next thing we went into, public or private, and as soon as we started saying that, he started to get uppity. Judge Anderson, his name was. As soon as my friend says, he called him a mister, my friend said, excuse me, I'm not a non-degree, I'm not upsetting that. I'll call you what I want. My friend just called to him, no, you're not calling me what you want. We've been in these, up against these dead bail priests. We're not scared of them. Once you're sure you're not scared of these dumbass priests, and you're not consenting, they've not got no contract, the priest gets off the bench, and he walks, but we knew he was going to do that. He was in there 3 times, he walked off the bench, and on that 3rd time the security got called in and they couldn't deal with it. The police came and everything, and he said, do not touch us, because if he touches them all up. And we told him straight. So we've been doing this in courts already. So we've been going up against them because we're not scared, because they're not our authorities. These people are not our authorities. They're supposed to serve the people, and that service, they charge you for that service. I'm saying to them, if you're going to offer me your service, then you're going to do business and conduct yourself a certain way. And if you can't conduct yourself a certain way, at the end of the day, as far as I'm concerned, then I'm not contracting with you. And as I have the million over my own soul, I have the highest claim. And these people, once you know that, these people don't want to know. So put it this way, as it stands at the moment, we pretty much get at least stopping them from causing us harm. They're being corrupt, passing custodial sentences. We just ignore those contracts and render on to Caesar, because custody is not going to do with us, because you don't have dominion. But that's all we've been doing is just physically, like Rob's saying, using moral proprio and just not contracting with them. And basically saying, yo, this is your obligation and this is what we're going to hold you. They want the power, but they don't want the responsibility that comes with it. What we're bringing is making sure these people who have this so-called power be responsible with it. And that's when they start running and must realise they've got responsibilities. I'll stop there.
Yeah, just want to jump in there. You hit on some key issues there now. And the thing I was going to say before you started on that little section was that they're all providing a service. Let's have a look what's happening here. Originally it was the police service. I know they've changed it to police force now, but police service, you've got social service, you've got British qualified animal services, you've got the military service. So they're all in service. What does the church provide? You go to church and they do a service, don't they? So what we're looking at is they're all providing a service, like you said, Del. But what's happened is, somewhere along the line, the arrangement's changed. If you provide a service to someone, then you're serving them. You're a servant. In that capacity, whatever you're in that capacity, you're volunteering to become a servant and provide a service. When you stop working, I say you do your 8 hours, I think you're back to being an everyday man and woman because you're no longer a servant. But what's happened is, this word authority that keeps cropping up, we've given them authority. Now, this is a real tricky word, and you have to really look at the etymology and really look at the deep meaning of this word. They've taken it somewhere along the line that we've given them authority, which we have, and so what they've done is, no longer are they providing a service now, they've switched the arrangement round, and they saying that because we've given them authority, that they somehow stand over us. But if you trace it back far enough and look at the words correctly, we've only actually given them authority to serve us. That's the difference. We haven't given them the authority to stand over us in that official capacity because they're providing a service. What we have given them is authority to serve us. Now that's not the same thing at all. Imagine you're quite wealthy. Imagine you're quite wealthy and you want somebody to come and clean your house, for instance. You look at this leader and you give them an interview. And if they get the job, then they're going to be cleaning your house. So you give them authority to come into your house and provide the service. And that's all that's happening. That's all that's happening with civil servants, government people, whatever's providing service, is that we've given them authority to serve us, and that's where it starts. We still have authority over them. And the other thing I just wanted to mention was a lot of people haven't realised, haven't made the connection between any churches anywhere and the Vatican being the highest church, and everyday corporations and companies and the police and courts. Not many people see the connection, and when you start to realise the whole thing is connected, it makes everything. Oh, this is a bit noise in the background there. Where was I? Yeah, when you see the connection between the church and every single corporation and industry, it starts making more sense now that everybody's providing a service. But what they've done is they've got that overblown and that greedy that they're now forcing the service on us. So what we've got to do is remind them that their authority that we've granted them as the people of the power, we've granted them authority to serve us and to serve us only. Anybody else want to come in there?
Serve to us is what it is, isn't it?
It is.
Serve us, well, serve to us, I think, anyway. No, just great points. You guys are really linking up a lot of stuff I picked up all over the years, more on the local level. But obviously you guys are taking it right to the whole right across the whole field with it, you know what I mean? And that's, I mean, if you really do want to know, you know, you've got to go all the way, haven't you?
Yeah, you've got to look at, look at everything. Seems, I think it's breaking up, doesn't speaking here.
Yeah, I'm getting a bit of that as well.
Yeah, I seem to be having a bit of a technical glitch with our broadcasting software. I just noticed the time. It's 2:33.
Oh, God.
Yeah, we seem to be freezing a bit on here, so that I think that works out. We've just done over 4.5 hours between us tonight. which I suppose might be been as people having trouble hearing as